Namaskar. Hello and welcome to the day second of World Education Forum 2024. Today is 16th of January, Tuesday, and it was our great good fortune to have the inaugural session of World Education Forum 2024 by two savants of India who gave some very original, actionable ideas for furthering the vision and aspiration of a Vikasit Bharat. And we had the great good fortune to have the former chairperson of the All India Council of Technical Education, Professor Shankar S. Mantha, who talked about juxtaposing the Apara Vidya Vidya Para Vidya. He, in the Indic pantheon, he talked about an higher education ecosystem which is firmly based on values, and Professor Mantha initiated a set of 15 values which, as per his vast educational experience, being a technocrat par excellence, but he said that these traditional values are something which can arrest the VUCA frontiers which are unfurling all across from Shraddha, Udyamashilata. And today I would like to welcome our first dignitary for this evening, the day two Fulcrum of World Education Forum, Dr. S. Glory Swarupa, ma'am, who is the Director General at the National Institute for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises at Hyderabad. So Udyamashilta is the second value what Professor Mantha enunciated yesterday. Nirbhayata, Satvikta, Jnana Yoga Samatvam, Dan Yagya Tapah Dam Rijuta Swadhyay Paraninda Bhayavaha Ahimsa Shanti Daya. So we have not translated into the English language because these are the Indic originals, and in every language of the country we do have a civilizational feel of these very values and virtues, and right at a very epochal moment when this World Education Forum is being convened, when the Ram Mandir is being consecrated on 22nd of January. So Professor Mantha also talked about that the values of righteousness, truth, and the celebration of the virtues of Lord Ram, beyond his religious symbology, it must be taught in schools, in colleges, and in universities. So that was the first talk, the first outcome of the World Education Forum, which we feel that it can go globally. India can really inspire the global, as Prime Minister talks about the global good. And when India hosted the G20 2023 annual presidency, we talked about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So these values and virtues, they encompass that spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and these universal values can be taken globally out there. The second invocation what we had yesterday was of the former CBI director. In a very short period of time, he translated the Central Bureau of Investigation into a Central Bureau of Integrity. And M. Nageshwara Rao Garu, he presented his critical commentary about things. He gave that the educational ecosystem is a quad. The traditional ecosystem, it talks about the basic linguistics, the Vyakaran and Ucharan, and numeracy, and finally the vocations, the traditional ecosystem, and that is where vocationalization of education, and most importantly, deliberating upon the purpose and nature of education. He talked about that purpose is missing somewhere in our formal education system, and perhaps Dr. S. Glory Surupa ma'am in her address would be touching upon that in today's talk. And he was critical that NEP 2020 somehow misses to enunciate the purpose and the nature of education quite a lot. And it is largely about educational administration. So this was our inaugural day when the foundations of the World Education Forum were set out there, and we had asked our dignitaries, our speakers, to talk about as to how to instill the confidence and faith in the youngsters about the comparative and competitive advantage of the civilizational antiquity of India through structured programs and evidences for bolstering the purpose of higher education at large, impregnating the spirit of critical inquiry and daring for commensurate action, channelizing the youthful energies and fascinations. At a time when our unemployment rates are at a very high level, so today's focus, today's day two, and we have called it as the Fulcrum Day. And today, what we are we have asked, or we have requested our dignitaries to talk upon. So the first session is leveraging techno-managerial advances to re-engineer family enterprises, which are largely the micro, small, and medium ones. Uh, Family enterprises of students exploiting their comparative advantages and making them competitive by strategic consulting, laboratory support, market research, uh, tech-driven outreach, etc. And today we have two very eminent dignitaries who would be sharing their comparative views on this very theme of how to leverage techno-managerial advances to re-engineer the family enterprises. We have been joined in by Professor Onkar Singh, the Honorable Kulpati at the Veer Madho Singh Bhandari, Uttarakhand Technical University. And today on day two of this World Education Forum, we would be having dignitaries from all four corners of the country. We would be joined by Professor Rajita Kulkarni ma'am in a short while from Cuttack, and Dr. Anirudh Malpani sir from Mumbai, and Orbino Saxena ji from Bangalore. So, uh, so Professor Onkar Singh and Glory Surupa ma'am, they would be coming with their own focused conversations. A lot of students who opt for techno-managerial education, they do have a family enterprise back home. And if the technical universities, like the one represented by Professor Onkar Singh, the Stellar University from Dehradun, there is a World Economic Forum going on in Davos in the Alps. But Dehradun, the lovely city, which is flanked by Yamuna and Ganga on both sides and overlooking the majestic Himalayas, Professor Onkar Singh. So they receive a lot of students from family enterprises. So how we can channelize their techno-managerial education to bolster the family enterprises back home? So under this theme, I would first request Honorable Dr. Glory Surupa ma'am to give her address, and then I would invite Dr. Onkar Singh, and then we can have an open house cross discussion to create a kind of an actionable program. Rethink India Institute has got some ideas, some works which we want to take it forward in the run-up to the World MSME Day, 27th of June this year. So over to Glory Surupa ma'am for her address. Yeah.
Namaskar.
Namaskar ma'am.
Dr. Surbi and Dr. Raghav Mittal, other eminent panelists on this platform in the web room, Professor Onkar Singh and Professor Usha Vaish, and dear students, a very good evening to all of you, and greetings from National Institute for Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises, Ministry of MSME, Government of India. First of all, I really appreciate Rethink India for organizing this World Education Forum 2020, as aptly narrated by Dr. Raghav. Like when World Economic Forum is going on, so to match with the Indian education system to reach that global economy position of third, what we are raising for entire country is looking forward. So a very apt event, and I'm thankful for giving me this opportunity. And the screen is so colorful and it is very, very attractive. And thanks to Dr. Raghav for briefing yesterday's um, outcome. It's a very good wrap up, and it's a very good learning for me. So how it went on yesterday and what I have to emphasize on. Moreover, you have chanted so many Sanskrit words. I don't know what words, like as you told, you have translated into English. Very much it is required for all of us to really learn what it is, because it is not just a chanting. Like, I think it is this terminology was brought out by the most distinguished speakers for all of us to understand, especially the student community, and also ponder upon and understand properly and take it forward. Anyway, I think after entire this 3 days, 4 days discussions, so you will be sharing some kind of proceedings, or some kind of action plan or way forward. That's what I believe. Yeah, we require this because it is difficult to give time for all the sessions and to attend all the speakers. So that's why I request personally to share that across with me. And earlier also, I attended Rethink India programs. They're organized very, very professionally and uh, very appealing way. Yeah, well, so World Education Forum 2024, and today's focus is more on family businesses. Okay, so under family business, again, micro, small, medium category, and how do we motivate more students or attract students to take the family business forward. And According to the Family Firm Institute, family owned businesses account to two-thirds of business worldwide, making them essential for both economic growth and for job creation. In fact, some of the biggest companies in the world, including Walmart, BMW, Tyson, and Ford, and so on, the family owned businesses, a far cry from the mom and pop cornerstones, may associate with family run companies. While family businesses may be a major economic driver, only a mere 30% endure into a second generation, 12% last into a third generation, and just 3% make it to the fourth generation. So this is very, very alarming. So this statistics relate to very much into India. And a study found out how family businesses are performing in India in comparison to non-family firms by studying companies listed in the National Stock Exchange of India. That is NSE 500 index for a period of 5 years. The results show that family businesses are not performing significantly better than non-family firms in the Indian business scenario. The study concludes with a discussion on the lessons that new family business ventures can take from family business groups in India that have made a mark in the Indian and world business scenario because of their ability to face and successfully overcome challenges faced by family firms. So this a few things I just want to share because a study has already been conducted. Now, the today's point of discussion are the factors, are the pointers, like education to be less expensive, to work around people's work and family lives. How do we prepare students and workers to do jobs that don't even exist yet? So we are completing this Azadika Amrit Mahotsav, and we are in the Amrit Kal and marching towards our centenary celebrations of freedom. So how do we support the students, prepare them to take up the jobs which are into family owned business, and which we may see after 5 years or 10 years down the line. And for challenges we cannot even imagine it, like when industry 4.0 was not introduced, so we have never encountered the issues or challenges related to artificial intelligence. But now our students are well managing the technology, are the innovatives and the startups related to industry 4.0. So likewise, how do we yeah, prepare the students so to reach uh, the goals, whatever the national priorities we have set. And for challenges, we can't even imagine it. So we don't know what challenges would come out in future. And to compete in industries and with business models that have not even been invented yet. So the technology is changing very fast, and the global scenario. A lot of challenges are being encountered, one being environment challenge. So we have never encountered the environment changes, the climate change, what we are experiencing these days. So how do we prepare the students for all this and also to pursue their family business? If we take up this higher education scenario in India, we have over 1,000 universities in India. I think Professor Singh will agree with me. So central universities, I think almost at least one university in one state. In Andhra and Telangana, we have three universities. Likewise, some states we have two universities. So put together, close to 56 universities we have. Likewise, the state owned and state established universities we have, I think, close to 500, and deemed to be universities we have 120 plus. Private universities, the almost close to state universities, like again 450 plus. These are all put together 1,100 and plus universities we have. And we should not forget the number of agriculture universities being established by Government of India. That is again close to 70 plus. So every state one university, and the biggest states like UP, Maharashtra, Karnataka, they are planning to establish one university, either horticulture or agriculture in one district. So that's how close to 70 agriculture universities we have. But when we look at the B schools, are the institutions offering family business are only seven. So the number is very, very less. So put together, our universities are uh, Professor Saab, can you make your mic unmute? Uh, so the institutions offering a family business course are the B schools. There are only seven. So one we have in Hyderabad, that is ISB, and um, IIM Calcutta is offering. We have Nirma Institute and SB Jain Institute of Family Business. Likewise, we have only seven, just a handful. So there is a lot of gap between the higher education institutions and the need of the hour, or the theme of today's discussion in this World Education Forum, the family business and the leap forward. So there is a vast, gap. There is a very big gap. So how do we create awareness among the students, or how do we motivate them? How do we encourage them to take up the family business or any micro enterprising activity, so to make India a world economic leader in the years to come? So these are some of the thoughts I was thinking, like so how do we take it forward? So identifying the sustainable practices across the higher education ecosystem and ensuring that important stakeholders are satisfied with their experiences is the key factor. Revisions, redesigns, and restructuring across the higher education system while visioning a transformative and progressive higher education landscape could help the institutions offer a quality student-centric and holistic experience to get into the family businesses. And I just want to quickly run through some of the important factors, like elements of change getting succession. So the owner and CEO or COO equation, managing contradictions, external responses and internal triggers, the preparedness for sustainability, leadership and governance, these factors I just want to highlight. Today, the family businesses have not just to operate in a competitive landscape that has established a business seeking to be domain dons, but also several niche startups mushrooming all over with some pushing the valuation boundaries as decacons with specialized offerings and attracting investors. This, along with the changing face of the consumer, with the largest purchasing power sitting with the millennial group who are largely digital natives, will keep triggering a need to constantly try and adopt and realign business to succeed in such a family operated ecosystem. The second one is getting succession and governance right. In few other Indian family businesses, they have let the family make away for non-family professions, with many of them taking key positions, including that of the CEO of the company. So this scenario is more practiced these days than earlier before COVID. And when it comes to the owner and a CEO equation, some business owners see themselves as hands on till they are at least 70 or more. So the owner of the business who has started, so he doesn't want to transfer the ownership to his family members. So till 70, even beyond 70, they want to hold on, and they don't want to, share that ownership with the family members. That's how the owners being hands-on does not mean micromanaging the CEO. Managing the contradictions. So when it comes to family business, there are a lot of contradiction and family feuds. Those family businesses that have thrived have a lot to do with getting into the right businesses and on the right basis, meaning what you are going is based not on family connections with the government of the day, but it centered around making good products that people want to buy and at price ranges that are affordable. So there is a conflict between the family members. So that's how these contradictions happens while evaluating the business, or while fixing the price, or while offering the goods to the common people. Likewise, there are many external triggers, and there are internal responses, and I just would like to emphasize on the sustainability. So today, entire world is the beneficiary of the climate change and the environment impacts, the negative impacts, and so it is not desirable, and it is not a better place for us to live. And the future generations, they have a lot of challenges if same thing continue. So the MSMEs are the major contributors for this, environment negative impacts through soil, through water, through air, through electronics, through their various operations. So they are contributing the pollutions in different ways. So, so how do we encourage a family-owned business to be sustainable in long run, taking care of the environment factor, taking into the social concerns, and also contributing for the good governance of their family business or to the local community, and at state level, at government of India, federal level. The leadership and governance. So the family owned businesses, so they should be ready, the owner, to pass on the responsibility or the mantle or the torch to their next generations, and encouraging them to carry forward their businesses. This is in brief about the existing scenario of the family businesses in India. There are so many other, results, outcomes, discoveries, and challenges, solutions. But I just want to emphasize very few things, in the very beginning, as narrated by Dr. Raghav, uh, the unemployment ratio is very, very high in India. as on today, 62% of the graduates are unemployed and 58% of the postgraduates are unemployed, according to employment and unemployment survey conducted. So this is because it is not that students don't want to get into the entrepreneurship or the business. It is the reason it was not taught to them, like entrepreneurship is one of the very, very attractive future profession for them, or it is one of the very, very lucrative profession, because we have the resources, we have the financial institutions, more importantly we have the human resources, which are 54% youth in our country, being the highest populated country in the world. So we are unable to attract our youth into this business. And as rightly told, the vocational skills. Since 2009, Ministry of MSME, Government of India, is into the skill building of our youth in various job-oriented skills or self-employed skills to start a nano or micro enterprise activity, including women. Having realizing the potential of this skill building, the Government of India has come up with a dedicated ministry in 2014, Ministry of Skill and Entrepreneurship Development, to trigger the momentum of the skill building across the country among all the sections and among all the sectors through various union ministries as well as state governments. We are very much part and parcel of this mission. We are making our efforts to impart these skills in various sectors. We are into the councils of various sector skills and also into the boards of various skills in improving their curriculum to have better job skills or better job profiles, and also national occupation standards to add more that kind of job roles into the sectors, and also to make it more youth friendly, wherein they can learn and they can practice, get into the industry and help the industry to grow and also get a gainful employment for themselves. So this is what we are trying, and there is a wide gap again between, as I told, the unemployment rate is very high. There are two strong reasons for this. One is whatever the courses, the curriculum offered at university or higher education institutions. So when the students are learning and coming out after passing out, the skills possessed by them, it is not suitable directly for them to get into the industry. So that is one strong reason. The second one is whatever the skills required for the industry, that is not being taught in the universities or colleges or educational institutions. These two are very strong reasons. And a survey conducted among the skill universities across India, it is revealed that the students are very much equipped with the skills related to automotive skills or artificial intelligence skills or woodworking skills or related to hotel management skills, service industry, or it is related to IT and IT enabled skills. But the entrepreneurship module, it is not taught to the students in these skill universities. And of course, in traditional universities, it is not at all being offered. That was the impression given, that was the feedback given by the students. So as a national institution, autonomous institution functioning under the Ministry of MSME for the past 66 decades. So we have come out with some of the very important strategies to help the youth and also educational institutions to take care of this challenge as a country we are all facing today. So we have a very important program that is called Entrepreneurship Awareness Program or Entrepreneurship Awareness Camp. So this camp is offered by all MSME DFOs, that is MSME Development and Facilitation Office. This DFO, we have in every state one office. In Hyderabad, we have, in Visakhapatnam, in Ahmedabad, in Bhopal, in Calcutta, in Bangalore, like that. Every state capital, we have this DFO. These DFOs are offering entrepreneurship awareness programs or camps across the educational institutions. So this message can be spread across, and whoever is aware of DFOs, they are approaching. But whoever is not aware of DFOs, they are not approaching. For one DFO in a state, it is difficult to reach this many hundreds and hundreds of educational institutions, including the junior colleges or plus two institutions. People can take advantage of this program. Apart from that, we have a scheme called Entrepreneurship Development Cell. So taking the financial and technical support from Ministry of MSME, Government of India, through MSME DFO, educational institution can set up this entrepreneurship development cell in their institution. So we don't need much physical infrastructure. One good classroom or a lecture hall can be converted into this. A team can be constituted to take care of this cell as for coordination purpose. The roles and responsibilities of the ED cell are very much defined, and the activities are very much defined, and also the outcomes are also set for 3 year, for first year, third year, and fifth year. So it how to run the cell and what should be the outcome. Apart from our ministry, Department of Science and Technology is also offering this kind of help to establish the entrepreneurship development cell. And we do have one more scheme, that is strengthening of entrepreneurship development cells. So wherever cells are established but they are unable to function effectively and bring out the entrepreneurs or strengthen the ecosystem in the region, so we do have scheme called Aspire, ASPIRE. Under that, we have Livelihood Business Incubator, we have Technology Business Incubator. Through this, machinery, equipment, and the required facility is created in the institution, be it Industrial Training Institute, ITI, or Polytechnic institution, any vocational institution, or be it B.Ed college, Bachelor of Education, or D.Ed college, any kind of institution after 10th standard can have this facility in their campus. Livelihood Business Incubator or Technology Business Incubator under Aspire scheme. Apart from this, we do have a faculty development program. So from DST and National Institute for MSME is one of the nodal agency to conduct this faculty development program to train the master trainers, that is teachers and the faculty across management, science, technology, and other streams of education system. So we have been doing this for the past, I think, more than a decade. Our institution has been doing this in all the states. But I think we could reach only less than 50% of the institutions. It is difficult because we have that many colleges and more institutions are coming up. Like now we have tribal university, like we have language university, and we have Sanskrit university. More and more institutions are coming up, more IIMs we have, more IITs we have. So even across these institutions, we are trying to develop the master trainers, we are trying to equip the skills of the faculty. If the student has to become the entrepreneur, so it is the responsibility of the teacher to teach them. If the teacher is not equipped with these skills, they cannot teach the student. So we are trying to build the capacity of the teachers. So how to prepare the curriculum to conduct an entrepreneurship development program in the campus, and time to time motivate the students to achieve, to the target of the individual or the institution or the state or nation at large, so that we can reach that third position of our national priority. And we have a very good scheme with our ministry for organizing the hackathons. So hackathons is the order of the day, like earlier how the classroom lectures are organized, our seminar workshops are conducted. Hackathons is happening across the institutions, and we do have the funding for this. So the educational institutions can approach through DFOs to organize this hackathon. I'm very happy to share that our ministry has completed 3 versions of the hackathon. Last one was dedicated to women entrepreneurs exclusively, be it student, be it house maker, homemaker, or home manager, or be it practicing entrepreneur, or potential entrepreneur, or scientist. for all category of women. This women hackathon has been completed. The results are yet to be out, and fourth version will be announced soon. I request all of you to take part into this and look for the websites of the ministry and NIMSME. We are one of the host institution to enroll your innovative ideas and to pass it on to the ministry for further screening and awarding the assistance. And under this, for an innovative idea, up to 15 lakhs grant is given. I repeat, for an innovative idea, up to 15 lakhs grant is given under the hackathon. So this innovative scheme is very much meant for the educational institutions who has the innovations and who are encouraging more startups who have already established incubation cells or centers are planning to establish. So that is one good scheme we do have with our ministry. And we are also organizing entrepreneurship and skill development programs across length and breadth of the country. And we have exclusive this ESDP program for SC/ST community. So wherein only the eligible candidate from this social category are enrolled for the program so that they get opportunity to sell their product or service in none other than GEM, that is government e-marketplace or central procurement portal. So they have the opportunity to sell their products and goods or services up to 3%. So government is encouraging to procure the goods and services from all the government of India institutions and PSUs from this category of entrepreneurs. For women, we need to procure 25% of our requirement from these different categories. In that, we have to procure from women entrepreneurs and SC/ST entrepreneurs. To encourage them to get into these platforms, this National SC/ST Hub scheme is being implemented. We are also implementing this. And we are um, uh, in the mission of Industry 4.0. So that is artificial intelligence and machine learning, big data, then blockchain technology, robotics, and AR, VR. All this we are trying to implement in addition to additive manufacturing to compete in the global markets for our precision tools in electronics and in aerospace sector. So Industry 4.0, we made just a beginning. It is not being clear to most of the educational institutions. Good old IITs, including the latest ones, they have one 3D printing machine, but not all the full-fledged laboratories. Some NITs they do have, but the traditional universities, the central universities and other educational institutions, they don't have full range of this Industry 4.0. So this is the future when China is talking about Industry 5.0. So we are yet to understand and start and expose our student or the budding entrepreneur to this technology. So we are planning to establish Center of Excellence in our campus. Already Government of India through Ministry of Heavy Industries invested so much in BHEL and HAL, Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, and many premier institutions like IIT Delhi, IIT Mumbai, they have established. But for everyone to reach these campuses, it is not so easy. So at least the awareness on Industry 4.0 to be created among the education platforms, wherever the seminars, workshops are happening, we should talk about this Industry 4.0 and the education institution management and higher education institutions to take a call on this Industry 4.0, because that is the need of the hour. And I think the kind of artificial intelligence interventions being made by China, including offering the passports to the visitors, manless passports, their embassies they are managing across the world. So that is very, very classic and advanced example. But we are doing many things, physically. It is nothing wrong that we are doing physically, but, we need to embrace these technologies and, expose them to our students, make them to understand and take up enterprising activity in this. I think when we look at the family business segment, so most of the family business segments are into very traditional products or, the services. Into tourism or into very, very our traditional kind of things. like garments and like regular consumer goods. We are into this only, but we don't find a very good at least two generations into this kind of industry 4.0 business. So this is the need of the hour. We need to emphasize and take this message forward. And more importantly, we should make the students to learn from everywhere in the sense, like what is happening next to China. So China is a big country, we have overtaken them for population, but when we look at a small country like Vietnam, okay, in Asia itself, they are far ahead. Like Bangladesh, in some of the aspects they are far ahead than India. So Cambodia, a small country, so for some of the things they are far ahead than India. So we have to encourage our students to get into the learning across the borders also. So they should not only learn within the country, but across the globe. So what is happening? So we proudly say that India has launched the satellite on the south pole of the moon, and we are targeting for the Mars. So when we have to reach the Mars, the responsibility is many-fold to the power of n, and we are marching towards third place in the economy. It is very, very ambitious for all of us. So this kind of initiatives. So practicing industry 4.0 is very, very important. And Indian family businesses have to brace for new businesses challenges and leverage new opportunities like industry 4.0. India will remember its excellent tradition in building great institutions, but the students can also learn that Indian family businesses offer simplicity of ownership, and governance systems and structures can be advantageous. And when you are marching towards 100 family businesses to reform, reinvent, rule on this Rethink India platform. I will just conclude in two sentences. So if the student has to perform or to become entrepreneur, the teacher has to be equipped, and the teacher should be fully equipped, then it can happen. And while teaching the students, the teacher should also become the intrapreneur, INTRAPRENUR, while developing the entrepreneurs. And we are in the season of innovations and startups, but our ranking is not so great in global index. We are in 43rd rank. Uh, we are promoting a lot of startups. We are helping a lot of innovations. And we are also talking about the unicorns. In the World Unicorn Platform, we have only one unicorn from India. That is Miss Radhika Gai, again a woman entrepreneur. She worked over 20 years to reach that position. So her brand name is Kind Life. She's doing something marketing in health and wellness, that sector. Now, previously, she worked for a marketing firm. That's how she has equipped all the skills, and she could, reach that unicorn position. As we are all aware, the value of unicorn is 1 plus 9 zeros, right? 1 billion US dollars. So for Radhika Gai, it took more than 2 decades, 20 years. If we have to promote a unicorn or show to the world that India can produce unicorns, so given the technology, given the financial assistance, given all the support with the ecosystem, it may definitely take at least 10 years, if not 20 years. So my appeal to this forum and the honorable professor sitting here and other educational experts here would be to bring out baby cons. Baby
Mm,
cons, because the value of
that-
baby corn is not defined so far in the world. Let us define the value of baby corn, showing that 5 lakh or 10 lakh or 50 lakh, and to show to the world that, yes, India brought out this many baby corns to the tune, to the value of this unicorn. Like we have so many definitions in MSME sector. In 2007, we brought out a definition for categories. Again, in 2020, during COVID, we have changed the definition to brought in more micro enterprises for greater inclusion. We have revised. So likewise, for many categories in the education, you have age criteria, eligibility criteria, social criteria, and we are bringing economically weaker sections for, take the advantage of the education system prevailing in India. So this baby cons, let us bring it as a policy. I am raising this in many various forums to officiate the terminology of a baby corn and encourage more students and more teachers or educational institutions to promote these baby cons and show
I
the
think
world. See, whatever we are doing, that is becoming a policy at the global platforms. So even today, one of the very eminent speaker from WEF was sharing that India is in a snowball methodology of research in taking the economy forward. So that's how let us also include apply this snowball research methodology to baby cons. So include more baby cons and show the world that we will become the global leaders one day.
I think this
So
is the
I
very
thank.
right juncture of Dr. Guluri Sarupa's fantastic talk when she has coined this, I think, the World Education Forum term of a baby corn. And there is no other evangelist better than a state technical university vice chancellor. As Madam was talking about the entire higher education spectrum of the country, the state technical universities command the biggest chunk of students coming from the nook and cranny of the country. Under them, the number of institutions which are affiliated is mind-boggling. Like Uttar Pradesh Technical University happens to be Asia's largest technical university. So they are the affiliating universities and they are really supercharging and reaching out to the nook and cranny of every state out there. And thanks a lot, Dr. Glory Surupa, and Madam has really given that vision as to how India can embark upon becoming the third largest economy in the country, empowered by the MSMEs. And just to give a quick adding to the entire narrative, that the current third largest economy, which is Germany, 99.3% of its firms are Mittelstands, which are the German MSMEs. They command, there are 3 million of them, and they contribute 52% of the German GDP as contrasted to
बैठे हैं
India, where
तो चाय
the
पिला दो
MS are contributing only 27 to 29% as per the latest statistics. And German MSMEs are providing 70% of the employment. And this is what is making Germany a global manufacturing superhouse. And Professor Onkar Singh, who is a professor of mechanical engineering, and he has transformed educational institutions not from an academic perspective, but also at an operational level. He is the best authority who would add upon Dr. Glory Surupa's national vision as to how it can be incorporated in the territorial jurisdiction of Devabhoomi, Uttarakhand. We just had a phenomenal investors meet. The industry titans from across the country, they pledged for around 3 lakh crore, 3 trillion rupees. And Uttarakhand would be completing its 25 glorious years just in 2025. So the Utkrisht Uttarakhand Abhiyan, which can be led under the aegis of the Uttarakhand Technical University, and it has been named, it has been added upon as a Veer Madhav Singh Bhandari Technical University. So I would request, I would bring in Professor Onkar Singh to add upon Dr. Glory Surupa's and operational challenges what the state technical universities are facing. As Madam Surupa talked about, that MSMEs have a problem of continuity, 30%, 12%, and 3%. And somewhere or the other, the aspiration mismatch of the students. The aspiration is to be associated with the unicorns or the decacons in some way or the other. But then we forget that a majority of us really come from enterprise families ourselves. Just quickly summing up a quick example, I also come from a family of MSME. My father ran a small bakery in a small town of Bharatpur in Rajasthan. I was in my third year at IIT Kharagpur. I was studying computer science and engineering. And my father shared that all of a sudden a disruption has happened. Another industry 2.0 or whatever had come in his domain. I went to my central library. I was disturbed because it was his money which was funding or fueling my fee. I talked to my chemical engineering professors. I went to the central library. I got a hang of an American Institute of Baking patented book, which was lying at one of the corners out there. At IITs, at that point in time, we were allowed to Xerox those patented literature. I sent it back to my father. He championed the various formulae over there, and he could compete with the global baking industry, which had just started coming in. So whatever small businesses we have, there is a lot of techno managerial challenge which perhaps a techno managerial student whom Professor Onkar Singh's university and its affiliated colleges they groom. So in that perspective, if front end marketing, back end design and business process re-engineering in coordination with national institutions like yours, ma'am, it can really empower the existing struggling MSMEs, which are somewhere or the other, I would say, serving the larger community at large. We just need to re-empower them, bring in the newer vistas over there. With this, I invite Professor Onkar Singh to deliver his address and add upon the conversation. Professor Onkar Singh.
Good evening to all of you. Dr. Glory Swarupa, Dr. Surbhi, and Dr. Raghav. It has been the first opportunity for me to be in this forum, and the theme which is supposed to be discussed and deliberated at this juncture pertains to the re-engineering of the family enterprises of students. Now, this, if you look into the complete ecosystem which we have around, which is catering to the technical manpower creation in the country, you have rightly pointed out that the majority is being taken care by the affiliating universities. And after this philosophy of the state technical universities came, every state has got by and large a state technical university which caters to the technical education. Now see the total number of graduates which are rolling out, the kind of employability which is there, the future prospects of the engineering education as such, all are under a scanner as of now. Today, nobody wants to go for the core engineering job. This is a very big challenge for the complete technical education fraternity. Anybody who is associated with this academia and deals with the higher technical education, he will appreciate that every family, every student wants to opt for an education which helps him or her in fetching a job from the computer science or allied domains. As a result, a lot of programs have been floated which have the computer science at the core, and it has got a lot of subsidiaries available to us. Now, with this National Education Policy 2020 coming into force, the Uttarakhand Technical University also took a lead, and we transformed all the programs which we have. Be it mechanical engineering, be it civil engineering, be it chemical engineering. See, as of now, we have around 250 plus variants of the programs available, which includes major and minor. But we have taken a due caution that in any eventuality, the basic purpose of the degree, if it is a BTech in mechanical engineering, we should not sacrifice the competencies which are supposed to be brought into a candidate for becoming a mechanical engineer. At the same time, if he or she wishes to opt for a short-term or a long-term career in some particular domain which is fetching him or her a job, we have provided him or her all possible minor options. So this major and minor philosophy which we have come up, that is for fetching a job. But when we talk of the entrepreneurship, it's not only the computer science and allied domains which are going to fetch the jobs for everyone. We have to be very careful in figuring it out that the core engineering disciplines, mechanical, civil, electrical, chemical, they are also going to be the core engineering domains, and they are going to give us a lot of opportunities when it comes to the manufacturing. It's not possible for the computer science graduate. I do not have any bias towards the computer science fraternity. With due respect, I want to tell them that the whole of the number, if it is going for computer science, it's going to be disastrous down the line in coming decades, because the numbers would be so large and they will be devoid of the basic engineering competencies which are required by the core engineering domains. You cannot think of a civilization which is having the, say, technical manpower, which is not capable of handling the mechanical subject, handling the civil subject, handling the chemical subject. So when we talk of the enterprises, when we talk of the entrepreneurship, it's everybody challenges the education, higher education, because we are at the delivery end. We are at a location where the final product is being rolled out to the market and they are ready to serve the community. Now, in this situation, whatever weaknesses are being nucleated at the levels, whether it is a primary education level, secondary education level, or say higher secondary education level, everything falls back on the higher education segment. Now, under these circumstances, the higher education system becomes a vulnerable one. See, in any eventuality, we may talk of a lot of skills being imparted to the engineering graduates, but at the same time, we should not forget that the higher technical education is responsible for creation of the knowledge. Our mandate cannot be compared with the mandate of a diploma sector or the ITI sector. We have to categorically differentiate between what a job profile a ITI pass out would be expecting, and what a job profile which a diploma pass out would be expecting, and what kind of job profile a engineering graduate will be expecting. Because for engineering graduate, this higher technical education has to provide all requisite competencies which can help him or her in learning the changes, the transformation which they will be bringing into the technological, in the form of technological advancements, and then unlearning and then relearning, and they have to survive for 30, 40 years down the line. It's not something that we can add some particular subject and that can fetch a job to a student, and that again undergoes a transformation, and a new technology comes up, and the competency for relearning is not there. Now, in this eventuality, what will happen? The educational system will be blamed, because we will be failing in imparting the requisite capabilities for learning, unlearning, learning, relearning, and whatever you call of. So, it is the responsibility of the higher technical education to carefully march forward, keeping the consideration of all aspirations which are there. Now, when it comes to another issue which has been raised by Madam as well, that was pertaining to the employability. Now, for employability, it's not only the responsibility of those who are delivering the final product, it is also the responsibility of the complete education framework. So, if some of the weaknesses are continued, see, most of the things which help us in perceiving a capability of a person are his presentation skills, his communication skills, writing skills. Now, these things, if these are the weaknesses, especially if we talk of the North India, where the vernacular schooling has been predominant in last so many decades, so the communication skill becomes one of the weakest thing, and that becomes a point of concern. So the student also need to be told, they are being cautioned. The institutions have been trying to add on some value from those perspectives and make them job ready, and also make them a presentable one, sellable one, who can come forward and sell themselves suitably in the market. Now, see, when it comes to the family enterprises, now this family enterprise is something which is available to an individual as a heredity. So the family enterprise means it's something which has been inherited by an individual. Now, all those, since Mr. Raghav has already pointed out that he belongs to a business family. So all those who are belonging to the business family, if the kids are getting educated well, either they will be taking their business to new levels, or they will simply switching to some other kind of job which offers them a comfort, because the kind of environment in which you are grown up, you have a lot of complaints, and you do not want to continue with that job. So I may be excused if somebody is getting hurt with it, but I have seen that there are a lot of business families where kids do not want to continue or pursue with the same kind of things which their father and forefathers might have been doing. Although it has got a lot of opportunities, you can bring in a lot of transformations with the kind of academic and professional competency which is provided to you. So you can very well go for the digital transformation of your complete business profile, complete operation. We keep on talking about Industry 4.0. So Industry 4.0 specifically relates to the cyber physical system integration. So in whatever manufacturing processes you name, whatever say business you name, there is always a possibility that you can transform your business, you can transform your operations from the digital technological perspective, because we have the tools available with us today. So the families run businesses, the families, their parenting is also playing a significant role. The parents may also not be interested in putting their children again in the same kind of typical situation where they are not sure about what's going to be happening to the business down the line in coming decades, because one has to survive for 30, 40, 50 years as a active. Now with the say average age increasing, this span is further getting enhanced. So the family enterprises, the students have got their they have the capabilities, they have the opportunities available. They should transform. I can simply call upon the student community, those who are those who have joined online, they should introspect and find out the opportunities, and instead of going for a job, they should start re-engineering their whole ecosystem which is available to them hereditary, say as a heredity, and they will be in a position to bring out a lot of good things out of their own businesses. Say e-commerce integration, which was not there earlier. So now there is an opportunity available. Sitting at any location, you can market your product or your services at in any part of the world. So those who are trained in the present perspective, the higher technical education, whatever we are providing to them, we are providing them with all requisite competencies to handle these kind of transformations. So irrespective of the institution from where you graduate, I'm pretty confident I can say it with certainty on behalf of the complete academia that the syllabus and curriculums are never deficient. The deficiency lies in how do we deliver, how it is being perceived by the student community. The teachers may not be performing their job well because it's not possible. If you have 5 fingers, each of the finger cannot be, say, they are not equal. Similarly, all teachers may not be that proficient. They may not be in a position to captivate their classrooms. But at the same time, you have the curriculum available with the kind of e-content which is available to each one of us, free of cost. So that should be capitalized by the students, and they have to carefully upgrade themselves, make themselves competent of handling the technological advances which are available to us. See, data analytics. This is again a domain which should be capitalized by the family and business students. So those students who have this opportunity, because you are getting so many things which are well laid, you have to only transform them. So the government might be doing its bit, but the society, the community in which we live, still everybody is wishing to go for a government job. Why it is so? Because there is certain degree of risk involved into it. If you look into the success of the entrepreneurs, they look into the success of the startups, it's dismal. So if only 10% is the success, what 90 would be doing? Because gradually, biologically also, they are growing old. So they land up at a position from where they cannot roll back. They cannot reverse the clock. And they are into a lot of, dilemma. And for them, it becomes very difficult to take the decisions for their future. So the present technical education, what we are imparting across the country, it's not pertaining to the Uttarakhand, across the country, we are imbibing certain requisite capabilities in the students. It's up to them. They should have a sense of respect for their family and businesses, which have nurtured them, which have brought them to this stage, and they should feel pride in being part of the family, which has been privileged one to run a business. It's a privilege because your father and your forefather or your further grandfathers might have been the employer at that point of time. I cannot think of my father being an employer, because he was into service, and I am also into service, and my kids may also be interested in going for the service further. So it's a kind of job which when we are into service, we become a servant to somebody. So we are not free for various kind of experiments, but as being part of the privileged business family, one should capitalize on the digital transformations. You should capitalize on the e-commerce opportunities available. You should capitalize on the data which is available to you. So data it is having immense opportunities. You should exploit that database. You have the capability to analyze it. Create your own market. Find out which are the opportunities where you should grow. You go for the automation. Go for the artificial intelligence-based interventions. It's not something very difficult. You can very easily do it. So you can say these all are things which the engineering graduates who are the privileged ones should exploit and feel a sense of pride in being part of the business family. Most of us do not have this opportunity. Most of us are simply switching out from the families which are having the businesses. Finally, the father and grandfather would be desperate and they'll be selling it off. They simply sell it off because kids are not interested in taking them forward because it does not offer them a comfort zone. But in reality, if you compare the kind of life which you will be leading as a say employee as compared to the one who is running a business, the two cannot be compared. You have enormous opportunities. So the present day technological interventions, the present day educational system, none of them are deficient. I'll simply say that the students should have a sense of respect and feel pride in being part of the family enterprises, and they should continue with the same, because the kind of job opportunities which are available, they are not sufficient to cater to the demographic dividend which is available in the country. So they will be, in a way, serving the society from a different perspective. So that is a very important consideration. Feel about the others who are desperately needing a job. Why do you want to switch over? Why do you want to close your enterprise and go for a job? Let someone else do it who doesn't afford it. So, see, I do not know what is the what specifically is to be talked in this particular perspective from an academic point of view. But I feel that there is a transformation happening. The government has been focusing a lot on the respecting entrepreneurs, the startups. The new ecosystem has evolved. Lot of government institutions and departments are handholding the students, but still lot needs to be done. Because when it comes to, say, I quote it at n number of times, that if a father has to marry his daughter, he will always look for a boy who is well settled, who has a secured job. Nobody wants to put the daughter in risk. So unless until this perspective is not getting changed, where we have a sense of respect for those who are taking risks as well, because they are eventually going to contribute to the economy in a much bigger way. So it's not something that anybody is big or small, or anybody's contribution is being questioned. Everybody is contributing, but few have that golden opportunity. So those who have this opportunity, they should exploit it. They should, the educational system, educational institutions are with you. We are providing you with the basic competencies. We'll continue with that. The educational institutions cannot be tweaked like that. Today we have a requirement for Linux. Today we have the requirement for Red Hat. So we should offer a job. That is not possible, because we should not compromise. We should not sacrifice the basic competencies which have been there since last so many decades and which are still relevant. Say they are still relevant, because you need to understand how all this has happened, and what is unless until you don't have the understanding of how it has all happened, you cannot evolve anything new. So for evolution, the past is also equally important. So I am confident that the kind of ecosystem which we have today, we have to carefully march forward, but there is no risk at all. The students have to understand that they should become entrepreneur, and those who have the opportunity, they should definitely exploit the technological advancements and the opportunities which are available. And I'm thankful to Mr. Raghav and Dr. Surbi for giving me this opportunity. I'm open for any question if it is there from any side.
Thanks a lot, sir. It has been a terrific keynote what you have presented, that the academia, the higher technical education academia, is presenting the foundational education to the graduates, and this educational foundation would help them to acquire any skill under the sun, and that is what is higher technical education all about. That was the first very point. And sir talked about the cyber physical interface. Now, without a physical expertise well in place, how are we going to leverage the importance of Industry 4.0 or whatever we are talking about? So that is a very important, the importance of the core engineering branches of mechanical, civil and chemical, which has somewhere lost its shine and sheen, and a kind of a manufacturing revolution. The Honorable Prime Minister has been trying very hard. There are global economists who are saying, no, we have to jump from directly to the service economy over there. So that's a very fine point. And the third point, and that's where the transition, I would like to welcome Professor Madam Rajita Kulkarni, the Honorable President at the Sri Sri University, Cuttack. Madam, I would request you to just come on the camera as well. So the core challenge, what Professor Onkar Singh has mentioned about the gap area is of the aspiration and the inspiration. A significant chunk of students do come from business families, and if the techno managerial skills and the techno managerial orientation acumen, what they gather, and Professor Kulkarni would be adding upon more about it, they can during the course of their learning itself, they can deploy it back home, they can re-engineer their family enterprise, they can think about the challenges going further and forward. And she coming from a university which is a culmination of a kind of a community level education for almost how many decades, the art of living family, the Sri Sri University, which has come into being. And as a handhold from Professor Onkar Singh as to how this aspiration and inspiration to go back and to serve the family, which is the, I would say, the atomic node of the community. And because as I give the example of Germany, where 99.3% of the enterprises are Mittelstädts, where 52% of the GDP comes from the MSMEs. So how we can reposition the MSMEs, how we can reposition the family businesses per se, the comforts that Professor Onkar Singh said, that being an employee is one mindset, but being an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurship is not to start a new business, but to take the one which your dadajis, which your father have championed for almost at least a decade or more than that, re-engineer it to the futuristic challenges and a continuum which can be made out there. So I would like to invite Professor Dr. Rajita Kulkarni, ma'am, and one of the core themes what we had given to her was the innovative teaching and learning traditions on campuses, juxtaposing the conventional values and rituals with the most modern of the practices. So that is what Sri Sri University campus in Cuttack, the birthplace of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, as we all know. So I would like to invite Professor Rajita Kulkarni, ma'am, to address the World Education Forum 2024, taking the conversation further and forward. Madam.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for inviting me to speak on this very international and prestigious platform. I would like to start by acknowledging really the very thought-provoking and a very pertinent comments and observations and insights drawn by Dr. Omkar Singh ji. I was online for the last 15 minutes of his talk, and very, very relevant points placed by him for the consideration of students. And I think continuing that discussion, the topic you have chosen is a very, very relevant to the world we are in today. We are emerging out of the COVID pandemic of which finished about a year ago. But, I think that was an event which completely transformed the way we live, the way we work, the way we learn, the way we communicate, the way we have learned as a planet to survive. And if you look at the world around us today, it is a very transformative time for us as a world. Look at the geopolitical situation, look at the socio-economic developments around the world. Look at what is happening around the world, whether it is what is happening in Ukraine and Russia. Who thought that it would continue for 2 years? Look at what is happening in the Middle East, Israel, Palestine. Look at how technology has changed the world. Look at how we are becoming more and more a global village. So no longer are we untouched by what is happening in some part of the world to the others. So this is the reality of where we are today. We are a world which is highly interconnected, highly interdependent, and developing at a pace we have never experienced as a humanity. I mean, who could have thought that one global event like the COVID pandemic could impact every part of the world and completely transform the way we are living? So given all of this as a background, I think we in India are extremely fortunate that in the midst of all this, actually at the peak of the pandemic is when the Government of India Ministry of Education came up with the National Education Policy 2020. In all the global international fora that I have been part of, I don't think there has been any policy document anywhere in the world which has created the kind of excitement, created the kind of enthusiasm, and created the kind of forward-looking anticipation as the NEP has done. And that presents an opportunity like never before to us for education in India. Along with that, if you see in the last couple of years, the really transformative and forward-looking policies and regulations that are being brought out, whether it is what the UGC is doing, whether it is how AICT is making education more and more autonomous, giving more and more freedom back to educational institutions. I think in India, and now the way we are with open arms welcoming foreign universities to set up campuses in our country, I think we are as a country really leading the way in terms of open, progressive, and transformational approach to education, open, inclusive, progressive, and transformational approach to education. So this is what is happening in our country. To talk about, first was what's happening in the world. Second is what is happening in our country specific to education. I want to talk about what is happening in terms of what is the expectations, therefore, out of our students. And then I will come to the fourth bucket, Dr. Surabhi, of the real topic at hand of, therefore, what we need to do to make our education, therefore, respond to it. See, today, the world, often when we are discussing, there are two approaches. We say, oh, I wish I was studying at a time like this, which is so full of choices, which is so full of innovation, which is so full of opportunities. At the same time, we also say, thank God I studied when I did, because look at the pressures that are there today. Look at the distractions that are there today. Look at the challenges. Look at the mountain of expectations that our students are going through. So it is a sword which goes both ways. But if you look at what are the expectations when our students graduate out of our educational campuses, I think it's a very vibrant time of the world. And therefore, because the world is coming closer, it is also a time when a student like our university, as you rightly said, is in a very pious cities, twin cities of Cuttack, Bhubaneswar. So a student graduating from our university is not just competing with a student from that neighborhood. He's competing with a student who's graduating even from California or from, some university in Europe. The world has become a smaller place. So just to talk about the top 5, in my mind, expectations out of students. First, I think whether, the earlier speaker was talking about whether a student should go into a job or go into a enterprise of his own, whatever it is. But the number one expectation as a student starts his or her own professional journey is multi-stakeholder sensitivity. Gone is the time when you say, oh, you know what, I have a job, I will go, I will just do what is required of me. It doesn't matter what happens to the environment, doesn't matter what happens to my community. That time is gone. As a person, if I'm a business owner, the entire value chain is my responsibility. Am I sourcing my raw material or my raw goods from a fair vendor? Or is there any challenges? We have seen how even a big company like Apple has had to face questions about the production facilities of some of their facilities, say in China, and the facilities there. So how sensitive and how aware are we, number one, of all stakeholders that we have, and how sensitive are we to their needs? So it is a world of win-win. So our students will be expected to have that. Do we have that broad understanding, that broad perspective of multi-stakeholder sensitivity? That's number one. Number two, multi-generational adaptability. Workplaces are multi-generational today. In fact, our own educational campuses, our youngest student is 17 years old, whereas our senior most faculty member could be even in the age bracket of 70 years old. You're talking about, 7, 8, 10 generations. And how comfortable are you working with, different generations? You see, today's students want to hang out with their own peer group. It is okay when you are on campus, you hang out with your own friends and have a coffee with them or a vada pav with them. But when you come into the workforce, you cannot just say, I will sit with my own age group. You have to be able to work with multiple generations, and how adaptable you are to the aspirations, to the sensibilities, to the approaches of different generations is again going to be a very, very critical part of expectations from you. And by the way, this I am adding on top of subject matter expertise. All that is given. That's like the foundation, right? You can that is not even in the discussion. That is a given. So first is multi-stakeholder sensitivity. Second is multi-generational adaptability. Third is multicultural relatability. Today, we are a confluence of every workplace is a melting pot of cultures, whether national or international. In our own country, we are so fortunate to be in a place which is a vibrant tapestry of like cultures. Just these last 2 days is about 10 places in India, the festivals being celebrated in different forms. And our workplaces are a microcosm of this macrocosm. So how culturally adaptable are you? And today you see a lot of problems that are happening in the world, a lot of strife, a lot of conflict is because we say that, mine is the best and yours is not, and that is not going to work. So how are the students going to be able to relate and accept and be respectful to diverse and multiple cultures? Fourth is the agility of multi-career possibility. There is a research which says that, of course, medical science is advancing so fast. I read a research recently which says that we are all going to live to 100 or 120. So we will all have 70, 80 years of working, life. And it's no longer the reality that when I graduated at 20, I started doing something and that is what I'll keep doing till I'm 70. We all might have about 5 to 6 active careers in our life. So what is my ability and agility to, learn, relearn, unlearn, move, adapt myself? That is going to be very, very critical. I mean, the pandemic has seen the emergence of the gig economy. Recently, a friend of mine was introducing his daughter, and he said she's the queen of freelancing. And she has made freelancing into an art for herself, because she's supporting her entire education because she can pick up small jobs, she can, do them, earn the money along the way. And that has become the way of life. And multi-career possibility, I think, is a big reality. Can we have, has become a possibility. And then the ability to have the discrimination of choice. So I think one of the big expectations of our students is going to be their ability to choose the right over the wrong, the ethical over the unethical, the moral over the immoral. And you see what has happened. In fact, the Israel-Palestine situation threw open such a unfortunate reality of even what is happening on our education campuses around the world. And there you have seen that some students who chose some part over the other, or chose to side one side over the other. And actually then there are employers who said that those who choose one over the other will not be anymore, considered for employment. So the discrimination, in Hindi or Sanskrit we say vivek, क्या विवेक से हम अपना जीवन जी सकते हैं? This will become an important expectation. So if these are, I mean, there are many more, but just for the sake of this conversation, if these are some of the expectations that our students need to fulfill, then what do we as educators therefore need to respond to? So few things that I would say we, to share from Sri Sri University point of view, some of the things that are, I think, topmost in our mind, and we kind of do our best to provide that to our students. Number one is, how can we help our students become purpose driven? There is a lot of research today. The zillennial generation is not so consumeristic as it was before, as the previous ones. They are environmentally conscious. They want to associate. They want to live with a sense of purpose. So how can we instill that sense of purpose in our students? So Surbhi, our 3 core values in Sri Sri University are learn, lead, and serve. Learn from every source possible so that you can become a leader in your field, so that you can serve back your community. Leadership not as an end in itself. So finding that sense of purpose, I think, is very crucial. And everything that we do on our campus, I think, is guided by these 3 core values, which is why even during COVID, when we had a small bubble of students and team members left on campus who could not travel back to their family locations, were involved in Seva. Seva is a critical part of our DNA. We belong to the Art of Living Foundation, founded by Puja Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar Ji, and the purpose of our existence is to serve the world, to serve our community. And that DNA of Seva is very, very alive. We have identified about 75, 80 villages in our neighborhood. Students are encouraged to go to these villages to do Seva activities. Small little things like even teaching children personal hygiene, to helping de-addict alcohol, tobacco, some more specialized activities like this, cleanliness activities. So finding a purpose above the ordinary, I think, is important. And that's our number one effort. And we do that through various such activities. Number two, when there is such a tall order of expectations from our students, it is no longer enough that we just use the right and left brain, as you say. That also is not enough anymore. So full brain engagement, using actively the midbrain, the full brain engagement. And that also through various meditation practices. We have programs like Medha Yoga, which is actually helping students tap into their intuition, and which is so important today to be successful. So how can students use their full brain? That itself is a very big part of, so our students all learn on campus meditation, yoga. It's a way of life, Sudarshan Kriya. And they do that. Sadhana is important. So first was purpose is by seva, and full brain engagement by sadhana, as we say, and helping our students become mentally strong, emotionally resilient. You all are interacting, we are all interacting with our young friends. This generation, it is a lot of challenges on them, so much pressure, peer pressure. It is easy to get swayed away. There is so many challenges of substance abuse all over the world, in our country also. So to become emotionally strong and have that strength of spirit from within, I think, is what through sadhana and through this full brain is happening through full brain engagement. Third is also full sensory engagement. Today, I read a very scary research data which says that the attention span is 4 seconds. So even now I am talking for like 10 minutes now. I think everybody has mentally gone for a cup of coffee. So 4 seconds, if is your attention span, how do you hold the attention of a student in a classroom, even for 45 minutes or a year or an hour? So full sensory engagement. So all 5 senses, audio, visual, kinesthetic senses. And I think a lot of wonderful, innovative teaching techniques used by our faculty with this in mind. Using indoors versus outdoors, using campuses. Who said classroom should be meaning only inside a class? Classroom is a signifier of a place of learning, but you can do it under a tree. We do class sessions in our gaushala. We have a gaushala on campus with 62 cows. It's wonderful. It changes the whole environment of learning. So full sensory engagement is again the third part. The fourth is also multimode learning. The previous speaker was talking about the advancement of technology. I think today the students are so lucky. You can do online learning. I mean, 90% of the information, so to say, is available free on open source platforms. So encouraging students to not just stick to what happens in the class, but explore and completely expand their horizon through this multimode learning possibilities, I think is very topmost in our faculty members' mind. Fifth is focusing on capability and communication. Today, many times I have said this, when I interview even faculty members for hiring positions, I see sometimes they have 2 or 3 PhDs, but their communication is so weak that, that domain expertise they have, they are unable to translate it into knowledge. So I think focusing on capability and focusing on communication is important. We are really doing that. Learning outcome-based curriculum framework is a very, very strong integral part of the way our entire curriculum is focused. Communication, mentor-mentee, partners, buddies, continuously practice and giving and receiving feedback, I think is very, very crucial. So focusing on capability and communication will be the fifth part, which we are doing, I think, quite well. Also, balanced and full focus learning. Today there is a lot of science and data about what time of the day is good to do what time of the day is good to do, sort of indoor activities, outdoor activities, do listening and learning versus doing and learning. So combining all of this and making sure that it is integrated in a way that is most conducive for a student's mind as it is today, I think is a big focus. And lastly, I would say continuous learning with a focus on blending the ancient and the modern. Today universities like National University of Singapore have given us a very great example of how learning can be till about 80 years old. I mean, they have courses where they take students, who are 75, 80. It is a continuous process. We are also, we understand that and responding to this multi-career possibility, reality of our life today. In fact, in our programs of yoga, and some others. Recently, in our program of Bachelor of Ayurvedic Medicine, a lady has taken admission who is 53 years old. It is such a fantastic thing. She says, I married young, I had children young, and then I spent my life bringing them up, and now I'm free and I want to become an Ayurvedic doctor. And she's part, and what a great situation. I mean, what a great situation it is, because we have a natural mentor now amongst the students. So, what a great thing for the younger students to learn from, and for her to learn back from her younger peers. So continuous learning and blending the ancient and the modern. One of the key sort of driving ideas behind Shishu University is how can we blend the best of what the east of the world and the west of the world have to offer, so that our students get a beautiful blend of that. So that you can see on our campus. We have a beautiful Gurukul. I think we are one of the few university campuses of India which are multidisciplinary, multi-faculty campuses, and with a Gurukul, with a Gaushala. And we have a skill center on the campus. So having when you go to our canteen or our dining area, you have Gurukul students, you have rural skill education students. At the same time, you have students learning emerging technology, you have students learning dance, you have students learning management and Sanskrit, Ayurveda and osteopathy. And what a fantastic platform of creating networks of learning and creating networks of friendship it provides to our students. So this has been our effort, and I can say that it has It is evolving in a very successful way from the feedback that we receive from our recruiters, and creating this space of enterprise. A spirit of enterprise is a very big part of our DNA. We have a very successful incubator. We have incubated just in the last 3 years almost 135, 40 startups that have created about 3,000 jobs. They are serving about 2 million customers. And, it is our goal to take this to a very large number. We have started now a technology incubator also. So whether it is creating employability skills, whether it is creating and supporting the spirit of enterprise, whether it is really pushing the boundaries of what modern technology can offer. We have a faculty of emerging technologies, which as per NEP is completely, embedded with the industry. So we run an artificial intelligence master's program, which is co-created and co-delivered by us and IBM Innovation Center. Similarly, we have a partnership with Adobe, Cisco, Amazon, all of them. So that is the cutting edge of technology. At the same time, preserving our ancient culture through preserving the ancient Vedic knowledge. We have a program. We are one of the 20 universities in India, only 20 universities, which has a program on Hindu studies. We are the first university in the whole world which has a research center on Kathak dance. We have 38 scholars doing PhD on Kathak. Now, to do something like this takes effort, to find those scholars, to create that ecosystem. We are the first university in Asia to start a master's and bachelor's program in osteopathy. Now, that is the cutting edge of medicine. It is all over Western Europe. In Europe, in America, you see the medical form of osteopathy. In India, we are the first. In Asia, we are the first. So we have to create even the regulatory, the quality, the entire ecosystem with the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health to create this program. So that is our commitment, that we will continue to push the boundaries and bring programs, niche programs and niche knowledge to our students, which is hitherto probably not accessible or available, both from the Eastern perspective of the world and the Western perspective. So without bias, without prejudice, with that space of open, open mind and receiving what is available. So that these are a few things, I think, which capture what we have. As I said, sadhana is a very integral part of the way we live our life. Sadhana Seva, I spoke about it. Sports is very, very crucial. If you come to our campus from 5 to 7 in the evening, you will find nobody in their rooms and everybody playing outdoors. I think physical activity, focus on physical activity is very, very crucial for this age. It keeps them energized and, keeps the energy channelized in the right direction. And focusing on education innovation. So we are, in fact, coming up with a very, very stunning, which we are told could be one of the tallest academic buildings of the world, Faculty of Integrative Medicine, where today, if you, for example, break your hand, of course, you have to go and do an operation. There is no choice. But if you have a lifestyle disease, you don't need to necessarily jump into Western medicine with sometimes some of its side effects. So how can we create a system of integrative medicine with Ayurveda, with osteopathy, naturopathy, and then ultimately reaching into the Western allopathic medicine? So we are, that is one of the activities we are having. We have Ayurveda college, we have Ayurveda hospital, 100-bed. All this started during COVID. It was a COVID care center. With God's grace, we are very grateful that we didn't have a single casualty. And so integrative medicine is a big focus. Emerging technologies, again, best of East and West. This is from, you can say the emerging, technologies of the world from wherever they come on, artificial intelligence, machine learning, mechatronics, VLSI, all of these. We have either started or, starting programs on that. Cyber peace. The earlier speaker was speaking also about the cyber world. So cyber security is, I think, given now. The wars are being fought in the cyber world. So cyber peace, we have a center of excellence on cyber peace, and faculty of contemplative and behavioral sciences. I am again told we are one of the first universities of the world. So mental health is a huge challenge in the world today. Just yesterday, Puja Gurudev was sharing that 1 in 3 people in the world today have mental health challenges, and how can we respond to them, not just by a band-aid approach, but really from the source, from within. So our faculty for contemplative behavioral sciences has been set up as a confluence of contemplation and psychology, and many more such. We have many centers of excellence now. Climate action is important, environment is important. We are very proud that we are one of the top 200 universities of the world in the Times Higher Education Impact Ranking for a few of the SDGs. Global peace is an important underlying priority, even in the minds of our students. They talk about it, and that is not so common today. So I think these are few of the ideas, few of the things we are doing. We are very lucky that we have the foundation of spirituality, thanks to our parentage to the art of living, and these spiritual values, I think, are helping our students have that shanti also, and because of that samriddhi also, that peace also, and prosperity also, of all kinds. And that is our effort. We want to be a preferred destination of students around the world, and to help them learn in a way that they can live life as a happy individual, as a global citizen with a broad heart, big heart, a sharp mind, and with a mindset to serve the world, to make it a better place. I think that is our foremost idea. And it's very nice that you invited me to share some of these thoughts. And thank you very much. And I'm happy now to take questions from you or the other participants online.
So a terrific presentation indeed. I would request Dr. Surbhi to make her observation, being a medico herself. The wide spectrum of, I would say, stellar schools, the innovative schools, and as the university Shri. So Shri is the Samriddhi in Bharatiya Parampara. Shanti के अधिष्ठान पर Shri Square, we can say that. किस प्रकार से a multi-pronged prosperity is being unleashed. Dr. Surbhi, your
so absolutely. I mean, I would like to, really congratulate and, really.
And I would like to bring in our next speaker who would really get inspired from the East Coast to the West Coast, Mumbai, Dr. Anirudh Malpani, who is a terrific votary of the entire spirit, what Sri is leading by his, I would say, a whole range of frugal innovations and enterprises, what Malpani Ventures is seeding from Decacons. He is the one who is seeding the Zebra Enterprises, what Madam Rajita Kulkarni also talked about, the empathetic part of it all. Enterprises having a Shubhata in them. And Dr. Malpani has been also an activist par excellence, who challenged some of the, I would say, the Decacons who were usurping the entire educational system by leveraging the power. Leveraging is a positive word, but by exploiting the power of technology. And somewhere he had to face a lot of personal persecution at the end of the larger global tech and financial nexus over there. We still don't see his LinkedIn profile out there, but then valiantly he fought. And some of the great stories what we are seeing in the national business newspapers, he was the earliest. I would say he could see it at that point in time. So Dr. Malpani out here, Dr. Surbhi.
So yes, just to sum up, and I would just like to express that the real practices being followed at Sri University are really, so much to appreciate and say. And from technology to integrative healthcare, I myself am an advocate and of integrative healthcare practices. I spearhead the Doctor on Record movement in India with my own humble efforts, and wish to really say that integrative medicine, mental health, bringing in the various aspects of even engineering, management, education, what all you've talked about is really, really commendable, ma'am. And I'm sure the sadhana aspect, the Shanti and Samriddhi, is doing really great to students.
I think Dr. Malpani would now take over as a medical doctor and as someone from an IVF specialist to innovation, virtuous, frugal enterprises, what he is creating, enterprises who are really serving the community at large. The spirit of Shri Shri, the larger community education program for Shri Shri, created across the nook and cranny of the country. So I would invite Dr. Malpani to also put his views. And Dr. Malpani, we have requested him to talk about largely the frugal innovations in the fray, impregnating higher education programs with the spirit of frugal micro innovations for resilient economic Atmanirbharta. As our earlier speakers, Madam Glory Surupa and Professor Omkar Singh were talking about, there needs to be an aspirational change in the young techno managers who are joining in the fray. Everyone is aspiring towards the decacons, getting a job over there, but not looking back to the opportunity which they already have, improving upon it. And that is where Dr. Malpani comes in, that how the family businesses can be innovated upon, a business practice which has been going on, can we add upon a value over there? And for Dr. Madam Rajita Kulkarni, Dr. Malpani runs a network of Apani Pathshalas, which are in a way small Shri Shri universities in their own space. So he is a advocate of the self-learning movement. He is an advocate of parents interfacing the young primary learners. Dr. Madam Kulkarni leads the higher education space, but at the primary, secondary education, how the parents can contribute back to the 360-degree rounded learning and all the five ethos, what Madam Kulkarni talked about, they can be naturally imbibed by the young learners while being in close pursuit with their parents at large. So without any further ado, Dr. Anirudh Malpani to his keynote address at the World Education Forum. Sir.
No, but thank you so much for inviting me. But I just love your play on words. I love the fact that you use the word impregnating because I happen to be an IVF specialist. We do impregnate women to get them pregnant. And I love the way you used innovative, virtuous, and frugal, which is the acronym for IVFs. That's really, really smart. Thank you so much. So, a lot of people say, you're an IVF doctor. What do you care about the education space? And very honestly, if you'd asked me the same question 5 years ago, my answer would have been very different. And I think this just goes to prove that life is so random that you can't predict what you're going to be doing 5 years from now. And in one sense, I've reinvented myself, and I'm very grateful to Byju's for doing that. Because honestly, I've always been a gold medalist, had a very high, great academic career. Both my parents were doctors. Of course, you had to become a doctor. My kids are very well educated. My brother is an IIT engineer. So, that was kind of taken for granted. And it's only after the Byju's experience that I realized that that's perhaps not the right way. So let me step back a little bit. Because I think it's not enough to just criticize people. You have to create a better alternative. And I think the irony is that Byju's was just a copycat clone of Khan Academy. Khan Academy is, I think, the world's best teacher, the world's best school, because it's free. Anyone can do it. It's been around for 10 years. It's anti-fragile. It's been funded by people like Bill Gates. It doesn't charge a single naya paisa. The quality of their education is brilliant. It's in multiple languages. They're using AI bots. So what did Byju did? Byju copied the Khan Academy model with a twist. What was the twist? That now that he had investors on his cap table, he needed to make money for the investors. Which means while Khan Academy's priority is students and learning, Byju's priority became investors and giving them their money back, which is why it just became this machine which kept on, all kinds of things. For one thing, it just kept on raising round after round. So which means it became $1 billion unicorn, and it was like the world's largest, most valuable in inverted commas edtech companies. All that is great. I'm a capitalist. I'm perfectly okay with money. I'm okay with money if it's earned ethically. I'm not okay with money when it's earned the wrong way. And the problem with Byju's is they were doing a lot of mis-selling. They were trapping poor students in educational debt. Now, they would never sell to a parent like me because I understand. But poor parents, for example, my driver, he would be their target audience. Lower income, says हाँ एक बार एजुकेशन मिल गया तो मेरे बच्चे की लाइफ सेट हो जाएगी, लेकिन गवर्नमेंट तो कोई कुछ सिखाता नहीं है, तो कोचिंग क्लास जाएंगे, कौन सी कोचिंग क्लास जाएंगे। हाँ, वो शाहरुख खान की मैंने एडवर्टीजमेंट देखी थी टीवी पे, अगर शाहरुख खान बोल रहा है कि बायजूस अच्छा है तो सचमुच बायजूस अच्छा ही होगा। एंड दैट वाज द बिग प्रॉब्लम, एंड they didn't have any USP, they didn't have anything special, so they just kept on doing that. And the worst thing is, all the other edtech startups did exactly the same thing because their investors say, Arey, Baiju's worth 22 billion. You idiot, you're only worth 2 billion. You also better learn to missell. You also better learn to get. अच्छा ठीक है, शाहरुख खान तेरा ब्रांड एम्बेसडर नहीं तो वो आमिर खान है ना, आमिर खान को बोल ब्रांड एम्बेसडर करने के लिए. So I think the whole thing was a mess. But like I said before, so I learned a lot. Now, what's interesting is I may be a doctor. What do I understand about pedagogy? What do I understand? I don't have a B.Ed degree, but I don't underestimate my intelligence either. And the way I look at life is I can learn anything I want to learn, which is what I did. Which means you looked at other educational systems in other parts of the world. Why is Finland so much better? Why is China stuck in exactly the same space in which India is? What are we doing wrong? And what can we learn from the world's best practices? And you know what the beauty is? I didn't have any baggage. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. I'm not trying to make any money. God is kind. I'm wealthy. I don't need to be politically correct. I can say stuff which pisses people off. And I'm very good at doing that. And my wife hates it. But I said, मैं सच ही तो बोल रहा हूँ. अगर सच बोलने के बाद लोग गुस्सा होते हैं तो उसके लिए मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ. लेकिन मैं डर के चुप नहीं बैठने वाला हूँ. So step number one was highlighting what was wrong. But more importantly, how do we fix the problem? So how do we fix it? How do we fix the education system? And we need to understand why the education system is so broken. And lots of us just take schooling for granted. And we don't even realize that schools are just a 150-year-old invention. Your great great grandfather never went to school. And what's even worse is that it's an invention which was imposed on us by Macaulay, by the British colonial masters who wanted to create Indians who would either become clerks and babus, who would run the empire for them. Because how else do you expect a handful of 1,000 Britishers to rule so many hundreds of millions? So they created all these brown-skinned Britishers because they had this education. So they killed the indigenous education system. They made us ashamed of our culture. They created all this exams, all that other stuff, and they did it in order to create soldiers for their army. And this was a Prussian invention which was copied and pasted and cloned. And the tragedy is, I didn't know any of this 15 years ago either. And it's only when I started learning about what's wrong with the schooling system that I realized historically its roots are wrong. And let's be honest, if the roots are wrong, how can the tree possibly be healthy? It's a system which is broken. Now everyone says, ठीक है चलो broken है लेकिन उसको ठीक तो कर सकते हैं. But the point is, it is designed to achieve that goal. It is designed to create clerks and babus and people who want to become IAS officers and government officers and engineers and lawyers, which is great. There will be a handful, but that's not going to be true. The problem is it's designed to create failures. Because for every one student who gets into IIT, there will be 99 who won't. For every one person who becomes an IAS officer, there will be 99,000 who won't. How much human capital we are wasting? These students are wasting the best years of their life cramming for a stupid exam. And I'm using the word stupid very deliberately because all an exam does is test your ability to cram and to prepare for that exam. It doesn't test your ability to talk to people, to be kind, to be compassionate, your EQ levels, your success skills. There's no correlation at all. And again, I remind you, I won lots of gold medals in college. I was a topper. I was very good at exams. But it's only in retrospect I realized that, the reason my wife is a much better doctor than I am is because she's a much nicer person. She's much kinder. And there is nothing in your education system which will ever teach that. It's very, very hard to fix an education system because you cannot repair a fracture by putting a band-aid on it. And I think that's something we need to remember. Having said this, I don't expect anything to change in my lifetime. I'm realistic enough to realize that people have been so brainwashed that the one thing we're not capable of doing is thinking for ourselves. Because you're so used to the teacher telling us, you can't go to the bathroom or you can go to the bathroom. You have to study geography because it's 9 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. You have to study Aurangzeb because this is what your textbook tells you. You have to do this, you have to do that, you have to prepare for the and it's not just the teachers, your parents tell you the same thing. So we don't even realize this, but school is a prison. You want students to speak up, but who does all the speaking in a classroom? It's the teacher. In fact, if you dare to speak up in a classroom without the teachers, Madam, Miss, can I talk? If you dare to do that, she'll kick you out of the class. And teachers have so much power and they misuse so much of that power. And where do they teach? Most of them just read their notes, they read the textbook, they read anything. I don't even blame teachers, very honestly. I think a lot of them want to do good, but they spend most of the time on clerical duties, attendance लो, punishment दो, exams check करो, तो उनको सिखाने के लिए time कहाँ रहता है? Plus the parents put so much pressure कि अरे तुमने curriculum complete नहीं किया. The principal and the school management put so much pressure. Oh, you need to upsell this, you need to sign up for this, you need to do that. So the poor teacher, however good her intentions are, has stopped becoming a teacher. And they're doing everything else other than teaching. And this is why a lot of teachers burn out, they get fed up, they leave. So this is what the problems are. And the problems with the education system, I think, start from parents. I know, like I said, everyone hates me for saying this, but that's the truth. The poor student can't make a choice. He has to do what his parents said because they're dependent. And parents, unfortunately, because of their own schooling, are not able to think of themselves or think about what's right. मेरे पिताजी ने तो मुझे स्कूल में भेजा, look how smart I am, I have this job. तो मेरे बच्चे को भी, और अभी तो वर्ल्ड ज्यादा कॉम्पिटिटिव हो रहा है, अगर वो एग्जाम में नहीं बैठेगा और अच्छा नहीं करेगा तो उसको जॉब कैसे मिलेगा? What they don't realize is the world has changed completely and it's going to change even more 5 years from now. What kind of world are you preparing your kids for? You're not going to live in that world. They need to become self-directed lifelong learners. And the only way they will become self-directed lifelong learners if you allow them to do the learning for themselves. And this is the one thing our schooling system does not allow. No freedom to kids, no freedom to teachers, no freedom to parents. So if I had to fix the schooling system, there's just one thing I would do. Attendance is optional. आने का है तो आओ, नहीं आने का है तो मत आओ. अच्छी टीचर है, उसकी क्लास फुल रहेगी because she makes it fun. She's enthusiastic. She conveys her love of learning for the kids. But the trouble is, out of 10 teachers, one is great, one is terrible, 8 are boring and mediocre and average. So then why should kids be forced to suffer through 30? Kids hate reading. You know why such few adults read a textbook or read a book when they become adults? Because they're so used to understanding and thinking here every book is a textbook. You have to start from page 1, you have to finish at page 30, you have to write a book report. You've squeezed out all the love of learning. You look at a toddler loves exploring. The poor guy, by the time he goes to the 4th standard, all his love for learning is, we squeezed it out of him. So I think it's the parents who are to blame. And then parents का तो standard answer है, हम क्या कर सकते हैं, हम तो बेचारे pawns है, government का काम है, you can. But that's no longer true in this day and age. So I would be perfectly okay. Have exams if that's what you want. My personal beliefs may be very different, but there is the NIOS, which is the world's largest examination system. You can do everything you want to do online. So allow the kids to pass the exam. If they can pass the exam, what do you care whether he's 10 years old or 15 years old? And lots of kids will learn much faster. Some will learn at a slower pace. Let them decide for themselves. The problem is, you know what? We don't trust our kids. And you know why we don't trust our kids? Because we don't trust ourselves. You know why? Because we bully our kids. We force them all the time. नहीं अभी तो history पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा. But I hate history. I don't care what you hate. Which means you effectively dumb them down. Instead of allowing them to play to their strengths so they become better at whatever they excel at, whether it's chess or dancing or gymnastics or what, make them better, make them world class. And the only way to become world class is to spend lots and lots of hours doing the one thing you're very good at. What's the point of creating an average student who knows enough algebra to pass an exam but will never use algebra in his lifetime? And whenever we tell people, हमने तुमको सिखाया, I think that's rubbish. तुमने सिखाया और एग्जाम होने के बाद 2 दिन के बाद वो सब कुछ भूल गया, So is that your idea of teaching? You can't teach anyone anything. They can learn for themselves. And I think if we stop forcing them, they'll be able to learn far better, far faster. And this is exactly where the alternative education comes in. And it's been there for many years, whether it was Swami Vivekanand, whether it was Rabindranath Tagore, whether it was Mahatma Gandhi. It's all about the community. And that is what we're trying to do with Apni Pathshalas. We're trying to break down walls. I hate schools and colleges and universities. And the reason I do is because they're designed to keep students out. They're not designed to encourage students to learn. So the more prestigious the university, the fewer the students it admits. अरे यार IIT में तो 100 बच्चे admire करते हैं एक ही जाता है तो that is world class. I mean, what are you trying to do? You want to educate as many people and here you're deprived. And there is absolutely no reason why you can't with the internet today. So what is our alternative model? We're saying what kids need is not a pen and paper anymore. What they need is a PC. And once they have a PC, life is sorted. So the moment I say things like that, everyone says, yeah, Dr. Malpani, तेरा तो सिल्वर स्पून है, तू तो एलीट डॉक्टर है, तू तो बंबई में रहता है, तेरे बच्चे के तो पीसी है, दूसरे लोग के क्या होने वाला है. And I hate these losers because they just come up with why we can't do this and why we can't do that. Which is why we set up Apni Pathshalas. Like I said, God is kind. I don't need to ask anyone for funds. And as an investor, I understand the importance of frugality and running experiments as startups. So I think of Apni Pathshala as my experiment. So what I think are these are community-based learning centers. What does that mean? No barriers to entry. Anyone who wants to come, whether the father wants to learn, the mother wants to learn, the kid wants to learn, everyone's welcome. These are safe spaces. What does safe space mean? No one is going to penalize you, punish you, send you for detention, make you do anything which you don't want to do. You're welcome to come, you're welcome to go. If it adds value to your life, come. If it doesn't, and we can't be right for everyone. We're providing you with the world's best teachers online. There is no adult in the room. The only adult supervision is to make sure that the kids are not fighting with each other, they're maintaining discipline, that stuff. But we're not teaching them. We're only allowing them to learn what they want to learn. And the reality is the world's best teachers are all online anyway. तो तुमको आज गेमिंग सीखना है गेमिंग सीखो, तुमको कोडिंग सीखना है कोडिंग, तुमको कुछ नहीं सीखना है ना तो पिक्चर देखो. I actually think kids will learn a lot by watching 12th Fail and Three Idiots. Who's forcing them to? What's the point? You can't force anyone to study anything because the moment you try, their brain gets switched off. So this is the safe space, this is the technology, this is the adult supervision. But we think the most important ingredient we provide is what we call peer-to-peer learning, which means in this one room, we will have, let's say, 5 computers, 10 computers with 20 students, 30 students of all age groups. Because the reality is students learn best from other students. So a 5th standard student will learn a lot more from a 7th standard student. Oh, you're stuck? You're scared to ask your teacher. The teacher will think you're an idiot. She'll give you a negative mark. She'll complain to your mother. There's such an information authority gradient. Whereas, वो तो मेरा ही दोस्त है. I play football with him every day. He just passed the 7th standard. He has all the teacher's notes. He's just passed this exam. He knows exactly what to say and what not to say. So I think with this model, we're effective. And then we wanted so that if you're stuck, you will not ask a teacher for help. You will not look at your textbook for help because the reality is all textbooks are outdated. Because by definition, by the time you create a curriculum, it's already 3 years old and the world has moved on. No textbook teaches you about ChatGPT. No textbook teaches you about large learning language models. But that's what these kids need to learn because that's what they're going to use. So that's what we want. And we don't want, the trouble today is everyone thinks, हाँ, बच्चा बड़ा होगा, सीखेगा, पढ़ेगा, कॉलेज में जाएगा. कॉलेज में बाद जाके जॉब करेगा, पैसे कमाएगा. But the reality is once you get into college, you're still part of the rat race. Maybe you become an educated rat. Well, can't even call you educated. You become a rat with a degree, I think, but that's about it. So you now can compete with 1,000 other people for the same job. But these are all crappy jobs. Most people lead lives of quiet desperation. 9 to 5 जट मार के पापी पेट को भरना पड़ता है, इसके लिए बैठ के ऑफिस में जाते हैं और बॉस की गालियां सुनते हैं. But they're not happy. They want to come back and then lie in front and watch TV and do all that stuff. They've killed their own joy of learning and their kids watch them. As a result of which they've killed their kids' joy of learning. And I think the only way to fix it and what we're trying to do is create success stories. We now have 50 Apni Pathshalas all across the country, Northeast, rural villages, tribal areas, colleges, schools, everywhere. We think PCs can be transformational. PCs are now inexpensive. They're being made in India. We have an operating system made by a company called Seligion. So we can actually push all these educational apps. So anything they want to do is easily available. It's much more affordable. So, and what we're telling people is, ideally what you should do is you should get together in groups of 3 or 4. So if your kid doesn't want to learn, so get 2 or 3 other kids in the neighborhood and get them all to learn. So your cost of the PC will come down. When the kids are together, they will learn from each other and let them have a good time. Now, how does it possibly matter? It will become much less expensive because you don't have to pay expensive school fees. You don't have to worry whether your kid is fooling around. You don't have to worry about sending him on a crowded bus or public transport where anything could happen, or he's exposed to a lot of obnoxious peer influences. He doesn't get bullied. He doesn't get exposed to drugs and, 50 other things. And the best thing is, you can easily teach what a school teaches in 8 hours in 2 hours at home. And then the rest of the time, he learns from the real world. Take him to office, take him shopping, give him errands to do, let him learn. And I tell every parent, if you want your kid to succeed, you need to do only one thing. Help him create his own website. That's it. I think your most important asset going forward is not going to be a degree. It's going to be your website because that's your personal digital brand. You can then promote it on YouTube, Insta, Twitter, whatever you want. It's your personal property. Then tomorrow you want to apply for a job, the recruiter will Google your name, come across your website, and this is proof of work. He will understand that this is what you've been doing over the last 5 years. And this is, I think, which can make a huge transformation to Indian human capital. My biggest heartbreak is we waste so much Indian human capital. My kids are lucky, like I said, they'll do well in life no matter what. But what about my driver's kids? They're much smarter than my kids. They're much more hardworking. They're much more ambitious. Why are they losing their opportunities? And the whole point of Apni Pathshalas is to prove that you don't need to be rich or privileged or elite or go to a fancy university or anything else. We think if left to their own devices, and all Apni Pathshalas are run by the students, and you'll be amazed by what these students do. You have 7th standard kids creating websites for their fathers. You have some, they actually go to the shopkeeper and said, Uncle, तुम्हारी दुकान है, मैं तुम्हारे लिए वेबसाइट करूँ, तुम करोगे तो तुम्हारे 10,000 होंगे, तो मुझे 2,000 दे दो. I mean, this is what kids can do. So I'm a big believer. I think we messed up the life. Our generation has messed up the world. I just hope that we will allow the next generation to do a better job.
Thank you, Dr. Malpani. He has truly revolutionized. It's all started with his critical inquiry in a kind of an edtech which tried to colonize the Indian educational space and brought a bad name to the edtech space. Now, in the general space, we interact with the larger educational community. Edtech is the same examples. Otherwise, what hundreds of educational technological tools what Dr. Malpani keeps on advocating and telling us all is simply phenomenal. And our next speaker, the ultimate one, and I would request Dr. Malpani, the whole spirit, what Dr. Malpani is living and leading through the network of 50 Apni Pathshalas. He has truly transcended the MyGov feeler of the Prime Minister to a my school kind of a approach कि मेरा स्कूल है जहां मेरे को जो मन करता है मैं पढ़ूंगा. The personalized learning movement, and we have with us Mr. Aurobindo Saxena, a doyen in the educational space who is creating School 5.0. He is the man who thought about the fifth industrial revolution, having an Indic touch, what Dr. Malpani has been talking about, that this colonial system of education, the 150-year-old schooling prison system, where the faculty members are imposing upon. Aurobindo Saxena ji is creating Schools 5.0, taking the best of the global narratives and revitalizing the Indic pantheon into formal schooling system. Dr. Malpani talked about that the whole purpose. In fact, yesterday in the foundational day of World Education Forum, M. Nageshwar Rao Garu talked about that NEP doesn't even talk about the purpose and nature of education. And I think Dr. Malpani has responded to M. Nageshwar Rao ji's thought process, that it is thinking for ourselves. I think, and this reverberates with Sri Aurobindo's dictum, which inspires Rethink India largely, that our first necessity, if India is to survive and do her appointed work in the world, is that the youth of India should learn to think on all subjects, to think independently, fruitfully, going to the heart of things, not stopped by their surface, free of prejudgments, shearing sophism and prejudice asunder, as with a sharp sword, smiting down obscurantism of all kinds, as with the mace of Bhima. So, Sri Aurobindo's namesake, Aurobindo Saxena sir, he has also been a votary, as Dr. Malpani talked about, a website, a personal website, a personal digital brand. Right in the COVID age, Aurobindo Saxena ji was emphasizing upon, and Rethink India tried with his under his student accomplishment portfolio, and there are lot many tools like Bulb and various other platforms which are so very easy to use, a kind of wikis where easily 22 plus modes of content, the handwritten notes, the musical things, what Dr. Madam Kulkarni was talking about, multimodal learning, it can be presented, and Dr. Malpani is a singular most votary of, it is not the examination copies which have to be evaluated, it is your student accomplishment portfolio. So I think we are really very, very fortunate to have such a galaxy of speakers at World Education Forum, that the handover is building on top of it, one after the other. The whole narrative is being added upon. इसी को भारतवर्ष में विमर्श कहते हैं, संवाद की बात करते हैं. All our speakers have really added upon, and they have really given up a kind of a global education policy and a global education program emanating right from India, the Vishwa Guru. And these are the steps over here. And one more thing, Aurobindo Saxena ji is one who coined the term sthir. When we World Economic Forum in Davos is talking all about catering to the VUCA word, catering to the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. But then how it can be arrested? And Aurobindo sir, he brought about a whole policy paper. It was unraveled during the Fifth Estate 2017, that if we bring in the sthirta part of the Indic intellectual traditions, what Dr. Malpani talked about so elaborately, well, it just came out organically to him. His typical swabhav brought about that, was something is really not good. A Ravanaik edtech enterprise is taking over all the Shri, all the small experimentations which are going on in homes, in classrooms, and trying to create a mega cop. So bringing out these values, virtues, these pedagogies which are there in the tradition. Professor S.S. Mantha talked about the Shankaracharya's methods of learning and teaching, and he said in his lecture that only two of the pedagogies are being adopted today. And Aurobindo sir also gave Aurobindo's Aurum, the Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences. He expanded. भारतवर्ष में 64 कलाओं की बात होती है, and what Madam Rajita Kulkarni was talking about, 5 to 7 p.m. at Shri Shri University, everyone is in some kala, sahitya, sangeet, kala, vihinaha, sakshat, manushya, pashu, prachhinaha. So what Aurobindo ji did was, he expanded, he mapped the 8 competencies of Howard Gardner to the 8 dimensions of human life, the 64 कला मैट्रिक्स, द ट्रेडिशनल 64 कलाएं जिनकी बातें हम भारतवर्ष में करते हैं. Yes, some of them are of the ancient character, but he tried to create a kind of a resemblance, and in his honor we call it as the Aurobindo's Aurum, the 64 matrix out here. So I would now like to invite our ultimate speaker for this Fulcrum Day, the day 2 of the World Education Forum, Aurobindo ji, with his vast, enormous experience in observing education from all angles, and the whole spirit for all our speakers who gave up all the experiments. He is the one who would be addressing now. So I invite Aurobindo Saxena sir to deliver his keynote address at the World Education Forum 2024. Aurobindo sir.
Thank you, Raghav, and thank you, Dr. Surbi, for having me here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, and there is a small presentation which I would like to share. So if you could give me the sharing rights, I will just
Sure,
share
sir.
my
Sure, sir.
screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Raghav and Dr. Surbhi, I think whenever you have given me an opportunity to speak at your forums, I have always tried to come up with something new, right? In 2017, you just mentioned that we came up with Sthirta, right? So, in today's presentation, there is a new genre of presentation which I'm going to share with you, and let's see how the feedback is. I'm calling this presentation as the tarot card presentation. And rather than making it a monologue, I mean, I would request Raghav and Dr. Surbi to ask questions if there are any, or share their own thoughts and perspectives, because the idea is really to have some kind of a conversation going, and not make it a monologue, right? So the first slide, if you can see my screen, I have just mentioned the title which Raghav you shared with me for this today's presentation. But you will see that in most other slides you will not have much text written, and that is the entire idea of a tarot card presentation. It's a new style of presentation which I have just coined for this particular presentation. So I'm going to be sharing my thoughts around making higher techno managerial education affordable and accessible to a much more diverse range of population with variegated learning requirements, say micro certifications of Vishwakarma norm, right? Now, uh, like in a tarot card, you just have an image, and you don't have much text written on top of it. So I think this style of presentation will have a lot of images which are again created with the help of artificial intelligence, which everyone these days is talking about. So I think the idea here is that we need to make higher education really affordable, and I'm going to share my thoughts on it. But what is very interesting is that if you look at some of the experts in US, and what they have to say about higher education, many of them believe that college is not for everyone, and the amount of debt which students have in the US higher education system at an individual level is phenomenal. Many students would have a debt of say 30,000 US dollar to 60,000 US dollar, or sometimes more or less, right? And for many years, even after passing out, they are in a debt trap where they have to basically repay their debts and all. So the idea is that higher education means you are trying to get deeper into a particular subject, and the idea of US education system is that the higher education is not for everyone. So you can go to a community college, maybe do a 2 year degree course, maybe pick up a vocational course, right? But you don't, not everyone has to go to a 4 year degree college, right? That is the idea. Now, Raghav, like I mentioned, that this is going to be a slightly more interactive conversation. At least that is what I'm trying to do. So, like in a tarot card, there is a picture which emerges, and I mean, I would request you if you could try and gauge what this image is trying to say. Would you
So
like to make a guess?
a lot of gibberish is there, which doesn't make any sense. Lot of
Right.
billboards and things like that, which are just showing the prominence, but they're not making any sense per se.
I think
Okay.
this picture also, I would like to come in here and say that this picture talks a bit about the end outcome of education. Is that so? Like you can see that the students standing at the table where some placement opportunities or some career counseling, something like that, something of that sort.
Oh,
So
okay,
it's like,
sure. So let me just share the rationale behind this particular slide, and also this particular style of presentation, right? So, I mean, I have been giving presentations for over 20 years now, and I have been following a very standard template. There is a header on top, there is a footer, there is probably an image, and then there are bullet points, right? And then what ends up in a typical presentation is that people, instead of listening to the speaker, they start themselves reading out the bullet points, and while reading the bullet points, they forget to listen to the speaker. right? And after some time, more or less, what I have seen is that people will doze off, they will not be attentive, their attention spans are very very limited these days. So we are just losing out on their interest. Now in this particular presentation format, what I'm trying to do is to engage the audience a bit more. There is nothing which is written, right? So they cannot read, and a lot is left to their imagination to think. So at least, if not they're physically there, at least they're mentally with you, right? So what this image is trying to depict is that currently our gross enrollment ratio is around 27%, right? And what this translates into number of students are over 41 million students, 41 million students, right? And I mean, the way I see it, I have been listening to the experts over the last 1.5 days or so, and I think a lot of good thoughts have been shared. If you look at our current higher education system, it's probably one of the largest in the world, with 1250, close to 1250 universities, over 50,000 colleges, and over 13,000 standalone institutions, enrollment of over 41 million by the end of 2021. And it is probably a humongous system that we have, right? And if I look at this gross enrollment ratio number, I think if I look at it back 10 years back, probably this 27% number was just 50% of it, around 13 and a half, 14% kind of a number. So in the last 10 years, the gross enrollment ratio has actually doubled up. But still, when you look at the media, when you look at news articles, you will find that there are many industry reports which say 95% of the graduates are not employable. So what this image is depicting is that even with 27% gross enrollment ratio, which compared to developed countries like US, UK, and Australia is probably very very less, but even with such a small percentage, our system is still not fully functional. It is not it's not perfect, it's not very very efficient. And at the same point of time, what we also keep hearing is that there are policy initiatives being taken to increase the gross enrollment ratio and take it up to 50%, or whatever percentage the government is trying to increase it to. So the idea here is that, okay, fine, we have reached 27%, we have 41 million students, and there is a need to make it more affordable. We have to improve the accessibility to ensure that this 27% probably goes up to say 50%, 55%, right? But the idea here is that if the system is still not fully efficient, it's not fully functional, there are some gaps which are there in the system, then should we just scale up this system as it is, or make necessary changes before we scale it up, right? So that is the broad idea. And a couple of other things which I would also like to share about the current higher education system is that almost one third of the graduates or undergraduates, they are pursuing courses in arts and humanities, and one fourth of the students are pursuing STEM related courses. So those are the two things which I think stand out for me. But we still have some cover distance to cover before we fix the system. Now any thoughts on this particular slide, Raghav and Dr. Surbi?
A lot of outward migration is happening. This is Australia. We are seeing.
See, I'll
And
share a very important statistic which I just came across. The entire population of Australia is around 26, 27 million.
uh,
So even with 27% GER in higher education, which translates into 41 million,
mhm.
the number of students who are pursuing higher education in India is more than the entire population of Australia. And it's not just Australia, there would be many other countries whose population will be less than our enrollment in higher education alone. So the point which I'm trying to make is that we should not chase numbers or set targets, but also look at the absolute numbers, because simply because the size of our base is humongous, right? It's not a
Mm.
small country, and we should also see how we are going to absorb these people, into the workforce. So here is one more tarot card, if I can use that term,
I
right?
would say earlier, the population of Australia was used in the context of the railways. And I think Aurobindo sir has come all over again that the population of Australia is the number of students we have in our higher education system. So from railways to higher education, it's quite a interesting transition. So Dr.
Right.
Surbi, would you like to attempt upon? Yeah.
Well,
So the dreams are different, but the
Yeah.
classroom is monotonous. Perhaps this is what is it looks like.
and this looks
So-
like two scenarios are depicted out here. That one is on the skills aspect and something of that sort, and this others is on the mercenary or the financial monetary aspect. What is the
Right.
target of education, goal of education?
I think Dr. Surbi, you have guessed it right. In fact, when I was listening to Professor Mantha's speech yesterday, I think he also mentioned about Paravidya and Aparavidya, right? So, taking a cue from him, there are different people who enter higher education system with different needs, right? There are students who look at higher education purely from an ROI perspective. So they are looking at a job, they are looking at placement, and I think Professor Mantha yesterday mentioned also that do higher education institutions exist only for placement of students, or is there a charm for learning as well? So this image basically depicts those two different school of thoughts. One who are trying to get into higher education, whether undergraduate or postgraduate, to get placed in the corporate, start earning, and then the other set of people who are not there just for the money. They have something else beyond the monetary incentive. So this is the picture that has this. Next image is very difficult to guess, so I will not pass this on to you, but straight away try and give you the rationale behind this image. So if you can see, there are within the same image there are two different divisions. One is slightly more premium, one is slightly more tight and congested. And drawing from our previous slide, this is not an apple to apple comparison, but some kind of I'm just trying to give some kind of a perspective to the size of our higher education system, right? And this also kind of touches upon the question of or the point of affordability of higher education in India. So some time back, I was looking at the size of Australian higher education system, and what I came to know was that there are 42 Australian universities there, and the combined revenue of those 42 Australian universities is around $40 billion. Now, if you compare that to our Indian higher education system, there are close to 1,250 universities. And I did some back of the envelope calculation, but I mean, from my limited understanding, I don't think the combined revenue of these 1,250 universities would be more than $40 billion. So the comparison here is of 42 Australian universities vis-a-vis 1,250 Indian universities, just on the basis of their revenue. Now, the idea is not to demean Indian higher education system or anything, but the point is that if you just look at the per student revenue that an Indian university is drawing, it would be far less. And the reason could be that there are a lot of public universities and public state sponsored colleges in India where the fee is very, very minimal, right? And therefore, if you compare the cost of higher education in India vis-a-vis the cost of higher education in countries like US, UK, Australia, Canada, Singapore, Dubai, you will find that our higher education system is still very, very affordable compared to our global peers. And any thoughts on this, Raghav and Dr. Surbi?
This is, I think, truly mind-boggling. This is true that the public character of our higher education is quite very much, and the student debt trap, what you are talking about, we keep on studying and studying because there is a large public university ecosystem, but then the relevance of it comes back into play that is the education being imparted to that 27% GR at the affordable cost? Is it making them employable? Now, that is the balancing part. Affordability is there, but the efficacy of it, BA या करने के बाद whatever courses we are saying, you are saying that 1/3 of them are UGs or arts and humanities, but are they really making something impactful after their 3 or 4 years of their degree program, adding to the economic value? I think that's a question, because time is also a capital which the kids are spending there.
So I think
Also,
it boils down to their why, that why they are pursuing
Fair
higher
one.
education. And I think Dr. Surbi is also trying to share something.
yeah, yeah. So I was just thinking, perhaps this picture also shows the kind of background from which the students are coming. Does this portray two kinds of scenarios? I mean,
Yeah, I think
students.
it's also a reflection of the socio-economic background of the students that are pursuing higher education,
Mhm.
right? So I think the question really is about the why. And I think in the past also in one of the forums I had shared this particular thought. And again, this is my own perspective and philosophy, that the nation's why and the institution's why and the students' why should all be aligned. And when all these three whys are aligned, that is when we will have a robust system. So in this particular slide, if you see, the idea here is that higher education institutions, I mean, they could be set up for profit making, they could be set up for maybe some societal purposes, for some philanthropic purposes. But in my view, I think higher education institutions should aim at nation building, and they should
Mm.
align themselves with what is the requirement of the nation, and then also counsel the students to pursue those paths which would actually lead towards nation building. And I think for me that is very important, that you should not set up, because there are enough and more higher education institutions already in the country, and if they are not adding to nation building, then I mean, I don't see too much of value add which is happening from a country perspective.
Mm.
So this is the slide which is talking about that. Now, any thoughts on this particular slide, Raghav?
Dr. Surbi, please.
Well, I think this particular slide talks about the just a guess that the higher actualization, or the right one shows perhaps the effulgence of the student, and the left one is something to do with logical and creative brain.
Green and
Yeah.
more mechanized, perhaps.
Mechanized and
Two
green.
kind of word views.
Yes.
स्वर्ग है एक तरफ नर्क है, शायद ऐसा है.
See, this is the topic that we were talking about, from VUCA to Sthirta, right?
Mm.
So the left image, if you see, it has slightly, grayish color and looking slightly dark, right? Whereas the right image is looking more vibrant, right? And a
Yes.
more joyous and fruitful kind of an economy or a landscape, right? So the current landscape that we spoke about, which is of VUCA, we have to move towards a world which is more sthir, more stable, right? And how that sthirta will come is what I mentioned, that when the nation's why, when the nation's priorities are aligned with the institution's priorities and the perspectives, and that is also in line with the students' why, right? So if student wants something else but the institution is giving something else and the nation wants something else, then we know we are set for not a very robust and functional system, right? So if we are looking to have a Viksit Bharat by 2047, then I think all these whys have to be aligned. And only then we will have a Viksit Bharat by 2047, where there is enough to eat, and there is a good standard of living for everyone. The growth is not limited to few people, but it is all encompassing. Any thoughts till now, Raghav and Dr. Surbi?
But how to align that? I think that is the bottom line question, because like the triple bottom line corporate management, that is one part ki bhai, so how to align it across, because the global realities are different, but Indian realities are different. Our mindsets, our attitudes are entirely different. So, how to get this going? I think that is a core question.
So I think it's a complex question, but my sense is that we'll have to work together with the government in terms of creating thought leadership positions. So for example, let's say as a country we need and this happens in many other countries, right? There are benchmarks that okay, we need one plumber for every 1,000 population, right? And then if our population is 1.5 or 1.4 billion at the moment, we need so many plumbers. Similarly, there could be statistics or global benchmarks in terms of how many doctors we need, how many engineers we need, what kind of engineers we need, how many chartered accountants we need, how many company secretaries do we need, right? And regulations will have to be built in to understand what is our stock and what is our annual flow. And if we feel that there is already a surplus in any particular field, then the government will have to come in and put a stop to it. So for example, if through some research it is found that there are enough and more engineers, and probably the annual intake of engineering colleges has to be reduced by say 50%. Again, I'm not saying that is the case, but I'm just building a hypothetical case. Then the government will have to come forward and say, okay, reduce the intake by 50% for the next year. And
Mhm.
similarly, from a private institution perspective also, it makes sense to not let go of those seats go vacant, rather utilize them for some other courses which are in demand, either from a nation's perspective or from the corporate perspective, right? So I think there could be some solutions which could be thought of, but we cannot have a tab which is opened and then not shut ever, right? So whatever was being taught 30 years back has still not been revised. The programs have not been revised, the courses have not been revised, the degrees there, if something has lost its relevance, then I think it's time for the government and the higher education institution ecosystem to come together and say, okay, we don't need so many BCom graduates or BA graduates. Probably what we need are these newer kind of professionals. So does that answer your question, Raghav?
Yeah, it answers, but then the big data, what we are having, the big government we are having, the aspiration, individual aspiration, and the reality. Like, for example, the Agniveer Yojana, what we can see across the government try to impose upon things, because obviously the defense warfare is changing, the capex requirements are increasing. So, in an electoral democracy, matching up the individual aspirations and the market reality. So it's going to be, as you said rightly, that it's a ultra complex issue, a socio-economic political issue, which so some other operating principles have to come at the granularity of India. Like you said, that the population of Australia is the population is which is studying in the higher education ecosystem, with the 1820 state technical university in place. 18 साल का लड़का हो रहा है, उसको ये लग रहा है कि मेरे को करना क्या, कुछ तो करना है. So, how to take that message deep within the gig economy, the things like that? Mapping up is fine. That's a very ennobling goal. But then operability, how to start it across? I think you have answered to an extent, but then after even the 10 years of, I would say, uh, great governance, what we have where the double engine and triple engine governments in place, if things have not come to a level in these 10 years, what we are, how we are going to see it.
Yeah, and I would also like to add in coming here, say that, the entire educational policy needs to be handled and, addressed right from the root, where from the school education to the higher education to the postgraduate education, with the end goal in mind. So when you are, you know, uh, going from the re-engineering from the end, start from the end goal. So when you have the end goal in mind, that you have to have the national building and the alignment of the individual, institutional, and the national perspectives, goals are aligned. So first of all, we need to emphasize what are those goals, and so a lot of institutional and government hand holding and coming together, convergences, and then knowing the individual aspirations. What our demography actually the youth wants, addressing their issues, coming to their level. I think this is also very important. A lot of delinquencies and going youth going astray. What do they want? And the overall socio-economic conditions need to be reviewed. I mean, why people are not valuing the core वो कहते हैं नौकरी से प्यार है अपने काम से प्यार नहीं है. So why this kind of culture is there, that a person wants to go for his job just to earn those chips and just to justify his stature or his position at the organization, but not the core job role what he is doing. So this entire calls for overhauling right from the root to the end, and we need to have the end in mind so we can reverse engineer. And that's also important. That's a perspective which I feel.
See, my sense is what will happen, no? First of all, we need to have nations why, right? I think higher education institutions and specifically the private ones would know their why, right? And students also with some bit of counseling, they can also identify their own why. Now, the challenge which I see, at least in the short term, and I completely acknowledge that India is such a large country. The scale is humongous, and if the solution was so easy, it would have been implemented by now. And we have seen that even NEP implementation, NEP has been such a phenomenal exercise, and even its implementation is taking so much time, right? So it's not a small problem, but I think the concern which I have is that at an individual student level, as our income levels are rising and our aspirations are also rising, India still does not have a single university in the global top 200. And what I am seeing personally is that a lot of students, again, right now the percentages are very small, but I think as on date, close to 13 lakh students are pursuing higher education outside India. And in 2022 alone, over 7.5 lakh students went abroad for pursuing higher education. So, as per our estimate, in 2023, Indians spent close to $50 billion for pursuing their higher education abroad. And this number is not going to come down. This is only set to go up. And in another 1 or 2 years, this $50 billion by 2025, and it will become $70 billion at current market rates. So if this is the kind of foreign exchange that we are going to lose, when students are going abroad for pursuing higher education, both regulations will come into place. There will be some action because our IT companies and our other service and manufacturing companies, they are spending so much time and effort to earn foreign exchange. And if this is the kind of outflow which will happen on just one head, this is just higher education, this is not travel and tourism, this is just one head. And if we see $70 billion getting debited from our forex exchange reserves just in 1 year, then I think some action will have to be taken, right?
Yeah.
Any thoughts on this? I think this should be slightly more easier to guess.
So the libraries are getting burnt out. Digital is coming in. That's one. Dr. Surbi.
Yeah, and I think this is theoretical and practical learning also something of that sort, wherein
So it has,
interact.
I'll give you a clue, it has some historical significance.
Burning of the universities. Like the campuses are being decimated. It's becoming a digital sphere, digital verse.
See,
Something on
there is
the
a famous saying that those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it, right?
Mhm.
And higher education is not new to India. We have had universities like the Nalandas and the Takshilas, and there is recorded evidence that some of these universities were burned down. So this
Yeah.
image actually points to that particular fact that we'll have to learn from our past, because once India had, many centuries ago, world-class universities where scholars from around the world used to come and study here. But for reasons which I'm going to share, those universities, they got ruined over a period of time. right? So this image actually talks about that. So linked to that is this story that from first century AD till now, India's contribution to the world economy has always been around 25 to 35%, and different scholars have pegged different numbers. But for most part, till the 17th century, India's contribution to the world GDP was, ranging anywhere between 25 to 35%. And it is also recorded that when the Britishers left India, this percentage had come down to just 3%. And if my statistics are correct, currently our contribution is between 9 to 10%. Okay, so if we look at the historical journey of India, where we were the epitome of higher education at a point of time, and we had probably the largest share in the world economy, between 25 to 35%. We hit the bottom in 1947 when the Britishers left, and that percentage came down from say 35% or 30% to 3%. And even after 75 years of independence, we have been able to increase it to 9 to 10% so far, right? So if we have to go back to our same old glory, right, of 25-35%, then higher education institutions have to play a pivotal role in increasing this share of GDP. And if we are not able to leverage our demographic dividend, I think this will never happen. Any thoughts on this, Raghav?
No, what you're saying is just perfect, but I'm just trying to map up as to what is lacking in the current contemporary times. A lot of talk is about startup India, stand up India, a lot of initiatives are there, but are they adding up? Are we really marching towards that, or the same conundrum what we used to witness, that we are on the verge of losing our demographic dividend? Because as you said that the nations, why the institutions in the higher education is a big industry, and then it still has not touched upon the $40 billion what you're talking about. The 42 Australian universities are doing it.
Right.
So
So I think the
pivotal role
point
is
which we,
fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have some thoughts here.
yeah,
I think a couple of things which the higher education needs to focus and emphasize on. One is that, the brain drain which is happening, even after studying in Indian universities, our students are aspiring and aiming to work abroad, live abroad, and, not having the nationalistic fervor. So that is one, And second is that, of course, innovation and entrepreneurship. So again, I would say that the spine of the country, of the financial gains, and that is also coming from entrepreneurship. So again, the multinational culture which has come in, and which is not inspiring the students to become self-employed professionals, or a value creation in the true sense, but just to again, the Maslow's hierarchy comes, a self-actualization. So all that is also contributing. So pride in the country, innovation, and entrepreneurship. So these three should be instilled values, these instilled values into the higher education, which would contribute to the financial, end product which we need.
In fact, I would like
all
to
the
bring in
country.
our earlier conversation. We started off with how to re-engineer the MSMEs, and Dr. Glory Sarupa and Professor Omkar Singh were there. So the aspiration index to go back and re-engineer the family enterprises and create value out there. So there is a lot of talk about the decacons and unicorns and the bigger corporations, which are somewhere the drain of wealth is happening. The sum total remains the same, but we are somewhere becoming the consumerist economy rather than the producer economy. So whatever technological spaces, even the startups, whatever are there, they are owned by the foreign space. So what you are saying, 20-25% India's contribution. So it has to be the sovereign Indian contribution to the global economy rather than the round tripping of the foreign capital coming in, utilizing our demographic dividend as consumers. And then inevitably that money is actually going back to their coffers. The 3 trillion, 4 trillion to 20 trillion, that kind of a gap, whatever we have. So that's what we can make sense of it. Yeah.
so I think, like I mentioned, right, India has had phenomenal universities in the past, right?
Mhm.
But I think what we should also understand is that a lot of them were not teaching military sciences, warfare. Some of them obviously were teaching, like Takshila was teaching and all, but many other universities were primarily focused on, say, religious studies, right?
Mm.
Astrology, astronomy. Uh, so I think it was a very, very different kind of an era, and I think the requirements were different, the thought processes were different. But what we have to also see is that if they were so phenomenal universities, what led to their downfall? And like I mentioned some time back, is that if we don't learn from our past, then we are bound to make those mistakes again, right? So there are four things, which came across as some of the reasons why those phenomenal world class universities of those times, they were burnt, or the libraries were burnt, or they were demolished, or they had to, they were ruined over a period of time. One was obviously foreign invasions which happened in the north. Then at the same point of time, new learning centers also emerged outside India, and within India also more towards southern parts of the country. And therefore, those particular cities, their attraction faded. One more thing which has been written is the decline of financial and political support. And other thing which is also spoken about is shift in trade routes. Now if we look at some of these things which are in the modern context, I mean, if you look at China and all, they are creating their own trade routes, and probably using those same kind of tactics which were used centuries ago. Even if you look at the financial and political support, I mean, it's so saddening to see that the contribution of GDP which is invested in higher education is close to 0.5%, right?
Mm.
It's not even 1%. So we are not making those kind of investments in our higher education, which actually propels them into the league of top 200. And
True.
when I say emergence of new learning centers, countries like Singapore, Dubai, Australia, Canada, US, UK, Finland, all these countries, they are emerging as new learning centers of higher education. Not probably US and UK, they've been for some time, but the other countries that I mentioned, they are emerging as new learning centers. So a lot of talent, lot of students will be lost to some of these countries. So, foreign invasion, I'll talk about it later, because now the dynamics of foreign invasion has changed. It's not through war, but probably through cyber warfare that we are seeing that invasion is happening to some extent.
Mm.
Uh, but I'll pick that up slightly later on. So I think in this particular topic, we also had to mention about accessibility and affordability. So what these two images are talking about is that today, if you have a mobile phone or a laptop, and if you are connected to the internet, you don't have to go to a university, or you don't have to necessarily go to a college to learn, right? There are so many platforms which are available now, where you could, I mean, if you pick up a particular course, you could just go to YouTube, you could listen to some podcasts, you could read some articles and blogs, and there is so much content available right now, absolutely free of cost in the open domain, that you don't certainly need to go to a college to pick up a skill, right? Probably from a job perspective, yes, you need a degree, because that is what the corporate would ask for. But if you are really interested in upskilling yourself, then you don't necessarily have to go to a physical center of learning. Any thoughts on this, Raghav?
No, this is perfectly the way to go. No,
And I
because it
think
makes.
government has also created so many initiatives like Swayam and PME Vidya and NDR and NPTL, and when you talk about affordability, there are today so many scholarships, bank loans which are available. Now, if we move to the next slide, what it depicts is that we are actually caught in a very difficult neighborhood as a country, right?
Mhm.
And our universities will have to, prepare the country, whether we talk about defense, or we talk about warfare, or if we talk about other cyber security aspects, which are in national interest, to protect ourselves from the kind of neighbors that we have as a country. and also to make sure that we don't commit the same mistakes which probably the universities in the past committed, right?
Mm.
So if we had such humongous, centers of excellence, I mean, one tends to question that why did we not create enough, defense mechanisms at which were relevant or appropriate from those times perspective, right? And from today's perspective, if we don't invest in 6G or in cyber warfare, cyber security, artificial intelligence, machine learning, drone technology, robotics, then probably as a country, maybe we'll make the same mistakes. And this is where I think higher education institutions need to come in, partner with defense establishments, also look at the priorities of our country and create products, services, softwares, platforms, maybe our own chat GPT equivalent, which some people are attempting now. Because if we don't do that, then I think we are going in the same path, committing the same mistakes which we have committed in the past.
Mm.
And then this is the last slide of my presentation, which actually talks about what Peter Drucker once said, that the only sustainable competitive advantage is to learn faster than the competition. And
Mhm.
today we have to see competition both in terms of our national agenda as well as from an institution perspective. So like I mentioned, that there were four reasons why ancient universities in India, what led to their demise. And I think if we don't take those learnings, if we don't really uh, learn the new, what is required for the country, what is required for our growth, then probably we'll be likely to make the same mistakes again. So with this, I think I'll conclude my presentation. And thanks, Dr. Surbi and Raga, for your interactions and your inputs that you shared during the course of this presentation. I hope this was more interactive format, and probably this could be used by our institutions as well.
Truly, truly. And I think what the core thought which emerges out as today we are calling it as the Fulcrum Day, what Aurobindo sir has brought about is that the coherence, the kind of parallel between the national goals, the institutional goals, and the individual goals. The whys, because what Sir said, that somewhere or the other, the higher education ecosystem, the fifth estate has lost its leadership role in India, at least. They are not setting the agenda. Today, we see the foreign universities who are in the top 200 or whatever. They are the ones who are bringing up the new ideas which the administration or the government ecosystem, it takes it up. In our spaces, we don't have that kind of think tanks associated with our universities, that kind of fundamental research of a Thomas Piketty. It might be on one side of the ideological curve, that's a different matter. But we are still even the consumers of ideas. We are not even having our own ideas. There is largely, I would say, emotional sentimentalism or superficial chatter. Nothing very concrete which can be deployed upon, and a very top down kind of an approach, perhaps. So, one of the reasons, like in Takshashila, if we see the serial Chanakya, the university and the king, they had got misaligned. The university was not setting the agenda, because in academic discourse there will be a dissent. There would be a lot of open challenges out there. And as I think the day two conclusion, that Nageshwara Garu said that even for a clerk and for an IS officer, the same degrees are required. So our educational system is perhaps not thinking originally. What I read out Sri Aurobindo's adage in your name as well, that we are not really thinking originally, and somewhere your presentation has really brought about, apart from the extremely visually appealing and the tarot card, the new innovation, what you have brought about. Uh, I don't know how you've produced these deep images, the three-dimensional and so much layered. I would say each one of them are kind of a Mona Lisa, kind of a, like you have to really become an artist, go deep into it and find out multiple influences of it. But a lot of meaning is associated. And the four items what you wrote, I think that is the central threat: foreign invasions, the lack of I would say, support, political and financial support, the changing trade routes, and emergence of new learning centers. I think this squad is the one which needs to be seen apart from the operational goals. As you said, that our higher education ecosystem is getting a kind of an irrelevant. That's why students are going abroad.
And I would also like to come in here when you talk of students, that where we have a national education policy, we could go move towards an institutional educational policy, and then from NEP to GEP, the global educational policy, where the national education policy is in relevance with the global perspectives, and then the most importantly, a student and individual educational policy. What you said, the alignment of the goals. So when a student enters in higher education institution, he should he should write down a statement of purpose, or enumerate or think what are his expectations from the 4-year program educational course which he is going to undergo, and what does he expect out of himself 5 years or 4 years out of the after the program. And then give him a little bit of a pre-sight in his schooling as well, in 11th and 12th, as to what his future career would be like when you become an engineer, when you become a doctor, and then align so that the education right from the 11th, 12th, graduation, post graduation is all aligned, is coherent, is integrative, is adding up, is productive to him when he goes to work. So again, as I said, an individual educational policy, an institutional education policy, a national educational policy, and the global educational policy. Well, it's not just policy alone, but then it has to come to action, and then the reading in between the lines interpretations are also important.
But I think, as always, Aurobindo sir's presentation and his take is a deep one.
Absolutely.
And it raises more, I would say, thinking pointers, because the optimization of the multiple forces, getting 25% of a global economic contribution, and higher education being a vital element of driving it, that is fine. But then the other balancing factors, what he has mentioned about that 0.5% of our GDP, national GDP, is being given back to the higher education. And Professor Omkar Singh, when we are talking about tomorrow's session, Dr. Surbi, when we will be seeing that Prime Minister talked about Viksit Bharat, got all the vice chancellors behind the governors. But then, are the universities being empowered to audit the various developmental programs? The civil engineering departments, are they being empowered as a policy to audit the quality and efficacy? So if that kind of a capacity building goes back to the university, because they are just creating, like Professor Omkar Singh said, that education and the skill, the debate is still on in the higher technical education space, that the pressure is ki you just give us 3 months or 6 month diploma holders. So skilling and the fundamental educational frontiers, I think so many questions, so many frontiers, like the deep images what Aurobindo sir has presented across. But then there is a closure. There is somewhere a closure, and we really have to keep on optimizing it. We really keep on revolving around the core questions, what he had said, that we have to look back into our glorious past to create a, I would say, a fascinating future further and forward. So thank you so much, Aurobindo sir, for really illumining the World Education Forum, the fulcrum. You have really given the fulcrum of it all, that on these bottom line enumerations, we have to see, look it into in absolute numbers also, because learning from the global best practices is one thing, but our challenges, our problems are our own. Like the population of Australia, this percent of GER has to be there, but just look at the absolute numbers. So I think newer ideas, very original ideas, are perhaps needed to solve the Indian problems. Not the external consultants would come and just fit in their models on top of ours. We have to really evolve something, and I think your presentation has really given those openings. So thank you so much. We close the day 2 of the World Education Forum with this massively appealing presentation. Learning on multiple frontiers, and that is what Aurobindo sir is all about. And just one last question, your Resolute Consulting, you said these are the first names of all the Vedas. So what Resolute is all about, and then we will close the day 2 of World Education Forum. So
So I think it's very simple. RAYS are the four alphabets which denote the four Hindu scriptures, the four Vedas that we have. So on the basis of that, the name of the firm has been selected.
So the raise, so he's the one who has perhaps brought about the rays are from the Rigveda, Atharvaveda,
Yajurveda
Yajurveda,
and Samveda.
Samaveda. The ordering he has tweaked a bit, but that is what rays talks about, and we really wish you all the best. And thank you so much for illumining us on these deeper perspectives. A lot of learning and action plans will initiate out of it. So with this, Dr. Surbi, vote of thanks and
Yeah,
we close.
on the second day of the World Education Forum 2024, the Fulcrum, we had such a magnificent session with starting with Dr. S. Glory Swarupa Madam, Professor Omkar Singh, and Professor Rajita Kulkarni Ma'am, Dr. Anirudh Malpani, and Aurobindo Sir.
The showstopper of the day.
Showstopper, yes, Aurobindo Saxena Sir, who has just in such a profound manner, given the Sar Garbhita of it all. So with this, we thank you all our savants and dignitaries to have raised the World Education Forum. Thank you from Rethink India, from all of us, and
Thank you so much.
Great day. Good night.